"Your invitation was a courtesy," my son said. Graham didn't raise his voice. That was the part I would remember later, the care he took not to sound cruel while being cruel. Behind him, through the open ballroom doors, someone laughed as Tessa's father practiced walking an imaginary bride down an imaginary aisle. A pianist played the same 6 bars and stopped. I had Peter's cufflinks in my palm. Graham's repaired wedding suit hung over my other arm. Downstairs in my car were 23 unfinished welcome bags because Graham had assured me somebody would bring the missing chocolates to the rehearsal. "A courtesy," I repeated. "Leah thought it would look bad if you weren't invited." He glanced toward the ballroom, worried somebody might hear us, not worried about what he had said, worried about the acoustics. I looked at the suit, the cufflinks, and the seating sheet still pinched between my fingers. According to that sheet, my dead husband had a better seat at our son's wedding than I did. What I couldn't understand yet was why Graham had spent 6 weeks asking favors from a woman he didn't actually want there. That morning, he had called me at 7:12. I know the exact time because I was standing barefoot in my kitchen, surrounded by ivory paper bags, navy ribbon, tissue paper, and enough miniature bottles of sparkling water to stock a very small, very pretentious emergency shelter. "Mom, quick question," he said. A quick question from Graham had the natural lifespan of a kitchen renovation. "Good morning to you too." "Morning." "Did the suit place call?" "They called yesterday. The jacket is ready." "Great. Can you grab it? I told you I would." Right. I'm just making sure. There's kind of a lot going on." I looked at my dining table, which had disappeared beneath his lot going on. I had noticed. He missed the joke. Graham had been missing my jokes since he got engaged, possibly because none of them came with a spreadsheet. "And the bags?" he asked. "Waiting on the chocolates. Tessa's cousin is bringing them." "Which cousin?" "The one from Milwaukee. That narrows it down if Milwaukee sent one representative." He sighed. Not a dramatic sigh. A small, efficient one meant to communicate that I had introduced unnecessary texture into a logistical conversation. "I'll text you her name." "Please do. And Aunt Doreen and Uncle Ray still need a ride tomorrow morning." "I know. They're at the Hampton." "I know where they are, Graham." "Okay. I'm not saying you don't." "I'm checking. I have their flight number, hotel address, room numbers, and Ray's new dietary restrictions. Apparently black pepper is now political. That got half a laugh out of him. For one hopeful second, he sounded like my son again. Then somebody spoke in the background and his voice changed. "I have to go. Rehearsal is 6 sharp. Don't be late, please. I'm never late. I know. I'm saying it to everybody." He hung up before I could ask whether I was supposed to bring anything besides his suit, the welcome bags, his father's cufflinks, and myself. The last item, it turned out, was optional. At 10, I picked up the suit from a tailor named Mr. Baines, who had altered Peter's clothes for nearly 20 years and still wore a measuring tape around his neck like a priest's stole. He brought out the navy jacket in a clear plastic sleeve. "Your son stands exactly like his father, like one leg is trying to leave before the rest of him." Mr. Baines smiled. I was going to say, with confidence, "You were always diplomatic. It's why I'm still in business." He smoothed a hand over the jacket front and showed me the repaired lining. Graham had caught it on the corner of a desk during his final fitting, then left the suit in my car because he and Tessa were late for a menu tasting. No one had exactly asked me to handle it. The suit had simply remained in my back seat until responsibility transferred itself by gravity. "He must be excited," Mr. Baines said. "He's organized." "That wasn't what I asked." "No," I said. "It wasn't." On the drive home, Leah called. My daughter never began a conversation with quick question. She began with demands. "Tell me you're not wearing that gray dress. It's silver. It's the color of a rain cloud. It has beading. So does my shower curtain." I put her on speaker and turned into my neighborhood. "What do you want?" "I want to know what you're wearing tonight." "The blue wrap dress." "Good. And tomorrow?" "The beaded rain cloud." "Mom, it cost me $280 and I look dignified. You look like you're about to give difficult news at a medical conference." I laughed despite myself. "Are you calling from the airport?" I landed 20 minutes ago. I'm waiting for a ride. I could have picked you up. I know, which is why I didn't tell you my flight. You're already doing too much. I'm doing what Graham asked. Exactly. There was a pause. Leah had inherited Peter's sense of timing and my inability to leave a thing alone. Did he ever send you the rehearsal dinner details? She asked. He sent me the hotel address. That isn't what I asked. I assume somebody will tell me where we're eating after. Another pause. Longer this time. What? I said. Nothing. Leah. I told him you should be at the rehearsal. I am at the rehearsal. No, I mean before. Last week he said he didn't know whether you needed to come because you weren't in the procession. I told him that was ridiculous. Something inside me shifted, but only slightly. Not alarm. More like a glass placed too close to the edge of a counter. I don't want a ceremonial job, I said. I didn't say you did. I hate being stared at. You gave a 40-minute speech at Dad's retirement party. That was different. Half the room had been drinking, the better half. I smiled, but my hand tightened on the steering wheel. Graham's overwhelmed, I said. Tessa is overwhelmed. Everybody turns strange around weddings. Some people just become more obviously strange. Be kind to your brother. I am kind to him. I'm also familiar with him. After we hung up, I carried the suit inside and laid it across my bed. Peter's cufflinks were in the top drawer of his old dresser, inside a square green box with a hinge that squeaked. I had not opened it since the funeral. The cufflinks were plain gold ovals, softened by years of use. Peter had worn them when we married, to Graham's college graduation, and to every holiday party where I had to remind him not to wipe cocktail sauce on his sleeve. I could hear his voice as clearly as if he were standing behind me. Gold cufflinks with navy? Very statesmanlike. You sold insurance, I said to the empty room. I slipped the box into my handbag. At 4:30, the woman from Milwaukee still had not arrived with the chocolates. I called Graham, straight to voicemail. I called Tessa, then hung up before it connected. She had enough people pulling on her. Instead, I loaded the unfinished bags into my trunk. Each contained water, aspirin, crackers, a tiny map of the river district, and a card printed with Graham and Tessa's names. The chocolates could be added at the hotel. If nobody brought them, the guests would survive. Adults had endured hotel rooms without personalized candy before. I put on the blue wrap dress, gold earrings, and lipstick. Peter used to call my courtroom red, though I had never worked in a courtroom. I had spent 31 years managing the front office of a dental practice, where the disputes were smaller and the threats more creative. The riverside house sat above the water with white columns and long windows glowing in the early evening. A young man in a black vest directed me toward the ballroom, then attempted to take the suit. I've got it, I told him. I can place it in the groom's suite. I've known the groom for 34 years. I'll place it. Inside, clusters of people stood around drinking wine and pretending not to be confused. Tessa's mother, Nadine, spotted me first. Marlene, you look lovely. So do you. She did. Nadine was tall and narrow with silver blonde hair arranged so precisely I suspected it had been negotiated in advance. Is that Graham's suit? She asked. Unless he's changed grooms. He told Tessa it was ruined. The lining tore 2 inches. He said something about the entire back. Graham gets his sense of scale from his father. Her expression softened at Peter's name. The chair is beautiful. What chair? Before she could answer, the wedding coordinator clapped her hands and called everyone together. I followed Nadine into the ceremony room. White wooden chairs faced a low platform banked with greenery. Tessa stood near the aisle holding a bundle of ribbons in place of flowers. When she saw me, she smiled with what looked like genuine relief. You made it. Of course I did. Graham was worried about the suit. The nation can stand down. She hugged me quickly, careful not to crush the plastic garment sleeve. Then the coordinator called her away. Graham was near the front with his best man. He lifted 2 fingers in greeting, but did not come over. I searched for somewhere to set the suit and noticed the first row. An empty chair stood on Graham's side of the aisle. Peter's framed photograph rested on the seat beside a small arrangement of white roses. A card hung from the chair back, reserved in loving memory of Peter Foster, father of the groom. For a moment, I could not move. The photograph was one I had taken during a trip to Maine. Peter was leaning against a railing, laughing because a gull had stolen half his sandwich. I had sent Graham the picture after Peter died. No one had told me it would be used at the wedding. It was Graham's idea, Nadine said beside me. Isn't it touching? Yes, I said, because touching was a flexible word. The coordinator began assigning positions. Nadine would light a candle, Tessa's father would walk her down the aisle, then sit in the first row. Leah would give a reading. Graham's best man would hold the rings. I waded through every instruction. My name was not called. A hotel employee handed me a printed seating guide when I asked where I should stand. I found Marlene Foster in the third row, between Peter's cousin Elaine and a man identified only as guest of Elaine. I read it twice. Then I walked over to my son and asked if we could speak privately. Graham followed me into the corridor, already wearing that tired expression people use when they want you to apologize for having a face. I think there's been a mistake, I said. About what? My seat. He looked at the sheet. That's where the coordinator put extended family. I'm not extended family. Mom, it's just 2 rows. Your father has a seat in the first row. His jaw tightened. That's a memorial. I understand what it is. Then why are you doing this? Doing what? Making it a comparison. Behind him, the pianist started again. I opened my handbag and took out the green box. I brought Dad's cufflinks for you. Graham looked at them, and something tender almost reached his face. Then he glanced back toward the ballroom. You didn't need to do that. No, I said. Apparently I didn't. He rubbed his forehead. Please don't make tonight harder. I asked where I belong at my son's wedding. And I told you, you have a seat in the third row while everyone else's parents are part of the ceremony. The day isn't about handing out parts so nobody feels left out. I don't need a part. I need to understand why you treated my attendance like an afterthought. His face changed then. The weariness went out of it. What replaced it was older than the wedding. Your invitation was a courtesy, he said. Leah thought it would look bad if you weren't here. I closed the cufflink box. Do you mean that? He could have stopped. I gave him room to stop. Instead, he said, You weren't supposed to be part of everything. I slid the green box back into my handbag and held out the suit. Then you need to make other arrangements, I said. He didn't take it. For several seconds, Graham stared at the garment bag as though I had offered him a dead animal. What does that mean? It means this is yours. I know it's mine. Then hold it. His hand closed around the hanger. I let go before he had a proper grip, and the bottom of the bag brushed the carpet. Careful, I said automatically. He looked at me. Habit is humiliating when you catch yourself in it. Marlene? Tessa stood in the ballroom doorway, still holding her bundle of ribbons. She looked from Graham to me, then to the suit drooping between his hand and the floor. The jacket's fixed, I said. Oh, thank God. She came forward and touched Graham's arm. Did she show you? She showed me. Tessa smiled at me. You saved us. Graham's mouth tightened. I wondered how many times in a life a person could be called essential and unwanted in the same minute. The welcome bags are in my trunk, I said. The chocolates never arrived. Tessa blinked. They didn't? Not at my house? I thought Avery brought them. She may be here. I don't know what Avery looks like, and Graham didn't send me her last name. Avery's wearing green, Tessa said. I'll find her. She turned toward the ballroom. Wait, Graham said. Tessa stopped. He looked at me with a silent warning. It was an old family expression, though he had learned it from me. Not now. Don't do this here. There will be a proper time for your feelings, and that time will occur after everyone has forgotten what caused them. I had used that expression at grocery stores, holiday dinners, and once during Peter's retirement party when he told a story I had specifically asked him not to tell. Seeing it on Graham's face was like finding my own handwriting in an anonymous complaint. "Aunt Doreen and Uncle Ray will need another ride tomorrow," I said. Tessa lowered the ribbons. "Why? I won't be available. For the ride or for the wedding?" The pianist stopped mid-phrase. No one in the ballroom could possibly have heard me, but Graham still moved closer. "Mom, you said my invitation was a courtesy. I'm declining it." Tessa's eyes shifted to him. "You said what?" "That isn't." He blew out a breath. "She's twisting it." I repeated it. "What I said was that Leah was the one who insisted you come to the rehearsal. You said my invitation to this, tonight." There it was, the first revision, still wet. "The wedding, too," I said. "You told me I wasn't supposed to be part of everything. I meant the ceremony." Tessa's face had gone pale around the mouth. "Can we please not do this in the hall?" "I would love not to do this at all," I said. Graham glanced past her. The wedding coordinator was watching us while pretending to study her clipboard. Nadine stood a few feet behind her, no longer pretending anything. "Go back inside," Graham told Tessa. "I'll handle this." Tessa did not move. Maybe nobody needs to handle anybody. Under other circumstances, I might have admired that. Graham shifted the suit to his other hand. "You can't just leave the night before my wedding. You didn't want me here. I put you on the guest list. You assigned me a chair near guest of Elaine." That was the coordinator. The coordinator didn't decide I was a courtesy. He lowered his voice even more. "If you walk out now, you're proving my point." "What point is that?" "That everything has to become about how you feel." The words landed because they weren't entirely unfamiliar. Graham had accused me of that before. Usually when I asked why he hadn't called for weeks, and he said he had been busy. Peter had said it too, though in his version, everything became a federal investigation. I looked at Tessa. She was twisting the ribbon bundle so tightly that the satin had begun to crease. "This is your rehearsal," I told her. "I'm sorry this happened here. You don't have to leave." I believed she meant it. I also noticed she did not say she wanted me to stay. "I do," I said. Graham gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "Of course you do." He had decided I was performing, and any attempt to persuade him otherwise would simply become another scene in the performance. "The bags are in the back of my car," I said. "I'll give the key to the front desk. The breakfast ingredients are at my house. Somebody will need to pick them up or make another plan." His stare sharpened. "You're taking the breakfast? I'm not taking anything. It's in my refrigerator. You said you'd make it. When I believed I was your mother at this wedding. You are my mother. Not according to the seating chart." Tessa flinched. I regretted the line as soon as I said it. It was clean and sharp and designed to leave a mark. The fact that it was true did not make it generous. I turned away before I said something worse. Leah was coming down the hotel's main staircase when I reached the lobby. She had changed into a dark green dress and was fastening one earring as she walked. "Mom, I'm going home." She stopped 3 steps above me. "Why?" "Ask Graham." Her hand dropped from her ear. "What did he do?" "I am not discussing it in the lobby." "Then let's go outside." "I'm leaving, Leah." She came down the remaining steps and caught my elbow. "You look like somebody died." That would have earned a better seat. Her expression changed. I closed my eyes. I shouldn't have said that. "What seat?" "Please let go of my arm." She did, but only because she knew grabbing harder would make me pull away. "I'll come with you," she said. "No, I don't care about the dinner. I do. Tessa didn't cause this." "You don't know that. I know enough." The coordinator entered the lobby with Graham behind her. He had handed the suit to someone else. For once, he was empty-handed. Leah turned to him. "What happened?" "Not now," he said. "Interesting. Mom used to say that right before something terrible at Thanksgiving." "Leah," I said. "No, I specifically told you, stop." My voice echoed off the marble floor. The young man at the front desk looked down with intense interest at a stack of key card envelopes. "Neither of you is going to use me as the rope in a tug of war. I'm going home. You are both staying." Graham folded his arms. "She's making a statement. I'm making a departure. You always do this." I stared at him. "Always. Whenever someone sets a boundary with you, you punish them." Leah looked between us. "What boundary? The wedding isn't a tribute to her." "No one asked for a tribute," I said. "I asked what happened," Leah snapped. Tessa had appeared near the stairs. Behind her stood Nadine, the coordinator, and two members of the wedding party who had discovered a sudden fascination with the lobby's architecture. I could feel the story getting larger than the truth. In another 5 minutes, everyone would have a version. In 10, those versions would become loyalties. "Graham told me my invitation was a courtesy," I said. I believed him. That's what happened. I took my car key from my bag, removed the brass house key from the ring, and held it out to Leah. "The breakfast things are on the second shelf of the refrigerator. The casserole dishes are in the lower cabinet by the stove. Take whatever you need." She didn't accept the key. "You're still making the breakfast?" "No." "Good." Leah: "I'm not making it either." Graham laughed once. "Unbelievable." Tessa turned to him. "Stop saying that." The quiet in her voice did what all of our raised voices had failed to do. It silenced him. I placed the house key on the narrow table beneath a vase of white lilies. Someone can bring it back next week. Then I went to the front desk, told the young man where my car was parked, and asked him to have the welcome bags brought inside. He looked grateful for a task with a clear answer. Outside, evening had settled over the river. The hotel windows glowed behind me, warm and golden, the way places look when you are no longer welcome inside them. I reached my car before Leah caught up. "You can't drive like this," she said. "I have been driving since before you could pronounce Oldsmobile. That is not reassuring. I'm fine. You're shaking. So are you." She looked down at her hands, annoyed to discover I was right. "I'm going back in there," she said. "No? He doesn't get to say that to you and then have everybody sit down to salmon. I think it's chicken. Mom." I opened the driver's door but didn't get in. If you leave, this becomes a family boycott. If you stay, it remains a decision I made for myself. He'll tell everyone you threw a fit over a seat. He may. And you're okay with that? No. The honesty stopped her. I took a breath. The air smelled like river water and the boxwoods planted along the hotel drive. "I'm not okay with any of it," I said. "I'm not okay with your father's picture in the first row while I'm placed behind people I see once every 5 years. I'm not okay with being good enough to alter the suit and drive the relatives, but too embarrassing to include. And I'm not okay with the fact that I would have accepted all of that if Graham hadn't said the quiet part out loud." Leah's eyes filled. She looked away toward the water. "I made him invite you tonight," she said. "I know. I thought he was just being thoughtless. So did I. No, I mean, I thought he forgot that you should be included. I didn't realize he had decided you shouldn't be." That was the unanswered question underneath everything. When had my son made that decision, and how long had I been cooperating with it? Leah touched the roof of my car. "What are you going to do tomorrow?" "I don't know. You said you weren't going." "I know what I said. Do you want me to come over after dinner?" "No. I want you to go back in there and be Tessa's friend. I want you to do your reading tomorrow. I want you not to defend me unless someone lies directly to your face. That's a very specific loophole. I raised you. I know better than to demand complete restraint." She wiped under one eye with her fingertip. "Text me when you get home. I will. And don't turn off your phone. I make no promises." I drove out before she could argue. At the first stoplight, I could still see the Riverside house in my rearview mirror. I kept expecting Graham to call. I imagined the screen lighting up, imagined him saying he had been angry. He had chosen the wrong words. He didn't know why he said it. The phone remained dark. Halfway home, I pulled into the parking lot of a closed garden center because I could no longer see the road clearly. I turned off the engine and sat with both hands on the steering wheel. The green cufflink box pressed against the side of my handbag on the passenger seat. I took it out and opened it. Peter's gold ovals caught the light from a parking lot lamp. For a wild second, I wanted to throw them through the windshield. Not because of Peter, because dead men never had to defend their seats. They remained exactly as beloved as memory required, while the living kept disappointing one another in real time. My phone finally rang. Graham. I answered without speaking. "Where are the eggs?" he asked. "They're eggs, Graham. I know what they are." Then I'm confused by the question. Where did you put them? In the refrigerator, unless they've developed ambitions. He made a sound through his nose. I could hear cabinet doors opening and closing behind him. "There are no eggs in here. They were there at 4:30. Well, they aren't now. Then I suppose someone moved them. Who would move 6 dozen eggs? I don't know. Perhaps they were offered a better seat. The line came out before I could stop it. I closed my eyes and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. "This is exactly what I'm talking about," he said. "What are you doing in my house? You left the key for Leah." She gave it to me. Of course she had. Leah believed in loopholes until they inconvenienced her personally. "Check the lower shelf," I said. "There are 2 refrigerator drawers underneath it." I checked. "Have you opened them?" "They're drawers." That wasn't my question. A door slammed in the background. Then Leah's voice, farther from the phone. "They're in the garage refrigerator, genius." I had forgotten Peter's old refrigerator was still plugged in beside the workbench. I used it for holiday overflow and beverages nobody drank. "Found them," Graham said. "Wonderful." I started the car. "Are you coming back?" "No. Mom, we have a schedule. I am no longer on it. You can't agree to handle half the wedding and quit at the rehearsal. You can't call someone's presence a courtesy and still expect breakfast." It wasn't about breakfast. "Then why did you call me about eggs?" Silence. I pictured him in my garage, still dressed for the rehearsal, staring into the old refrigerator while Leah loaded cartons into a box. The scene was so ordinary that it hurt more than shouting would have. "I have to go," he said. "Yes." "Tessa is upset." "I'm sorry." "You should tell her that." I did. "No, you apologize for causing a scene. That's not the same thing." He was right, which irritated me almost as much as everything else. "Put Leah on." "What? Give her the phone." A rustle followed. Then Leah said, "I found the eggs." So I heard. "Why are they in the garage?" "Because the kitchen refrigerator wouldn't hold them. There's also a tray of butter in here large enough to lubricate a ferry. The recipe is taped inside the lid of the white casserole carrier." "Okay, and there are foil pans under the laundry room counter." "Okay, I texted Doreen the coordinator's number. Someone needs to confirm her ride. We'll handle it." "No, you'll tell me someone will handle it, and then I'll get a call at 7 in the morning from a woman wearing orthopedic shoes and fury. Confirm it. I will confirm it." I turned onto the road toward home. "Bring the key back tonight." There was another pause. "Are you sure you don't want me to come over?" she asked. "I'm sure. You sound terrible." I'm sitting in the dark at a garden center discussing bulk dairy products. I'm not at my best. She gave a soft laugh, then immediately sounded guilty for it. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." After we hung up, Graham's name disappeared from my recent call screen beneath Leah's. It seemed appropriate. He had begun the conversation and delegated the rest. At home, the dining room still looked like a small gift shop struck by weather. Navy ribbon trailed from the table. Tissue paper covered 2 chairs. One unfinished bag stood open beside the ribbon scissors, waiting for chocolate that would never come. I took off my earrings, set my handbag on the kitchen counter, and noticed the empty space in the refrigerator where the casserole ingredients had been. Graham and Leah had taken everything. The shelves were cleaner without them. I wished I had never agreed to breakfast. I wished Graham had forgotten his suit. I wished Peter were alive so I could blame him for raising our son incorrectly and then listen while he blamed me back. Instead, I poured a glass of water and stood at the sink. My phone began vibrating before I finished it. Tessa. I let the call go to voicemail. She called again. Then a message appeared. "Please answer." I carried the phone into the living room and sat on the couch Peter had insisted was comfortable. because he had never once sat in the middle cushion where a spring pressed directly into the spine. The phone rang a third time. Hello? Marlene. Tessa sounded as if she'd been crying, though she was trying to hide it. I'm sorry. For what? For tonight. That covers a large area. I didn't know you were seated in the third row. Who made the seating plan? The coordinator drafted it, and then we changed some things. Graham said you didn't care where you sat. I rubbed the edge of the couch cushion with my thumb. What else did Graham say I didn't care about? He said you didn't want a part in the ceremony. I told him I didn't need a special part. That's what he said. No. Those sentences are cousins, not twins. She breathed out slowly. You're right. It was not the defense I expected, and for a moment I had nowhere to put my anger. We can change it, she said. You can sit in the front row next to my mother. That isn't the problem anymore. I know it's not only the seat. No, Tessa, it isn't the seat at all. Another silence. I could hear voices behind her, the soft restaurant noise of glasses and silverware. The rehearsal dinner had started without them, or perhaps without her. Graham shouldn't have said that, she said. He shouldn't have thought it. I don't know what he thinks. You're marrying him tomorrow. I'm aware of that. Her tone sharpened, then cracked. She was not a villain. That would have been convenient. She was a bride on the night before her wedding, discovering that two people she loved had been conducting separate versions of the same relationship. I'm not asking you to fix him tonight, I said. Good, because I don't think I can. I'm sorry this is happening now. So am I. She hesitated. But you were coming tomorrow, right? I looked toward the hallway. The silver-gray dress hung from the top of my bedroom door, still inside the garment bag from the store. My shoes were lined beneath it. The wedding card I had bought sat on my dresser, addressed, but not sealed. I don't know. Marlene, please. You shouldn't have to beg a courtesy guest to attend. I'm not asking as a courtesy. Then why are you asking? Because I want you there. The answer was immediate enough to be real. I closed my eyes. Does Graham? She did not answer immediately enough. I need to go, I said. He's angry. So am I. He says this is connected to when he lived with you after Peter died. There it was, placed between us like a dish no one had ordered. What did he tell you? That you pushed him out when he was struggling. I asked him to find a job, contribute to the house, and stop treating 3 p.m. like sunrise. He said you gave him 30 days. After 14 months. I didn't know it was 14 months. I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because arithmetic had wandered into a family wound and expected to settle it. He was grieving, she said. So was I know. No, I don't think you do. The sharpness in my voice surprised both of us. Tessa spoke carefully. Then tell me. Not tonight. That's what everyone keeps saying. She sounded tired now, not bridal or angry, just tired. I want you at the wedding, she said again. I can't speak for Graham while he's acting like this, but I can speak for me. Thank you. That doesn't sound like yes. It isn't. We ended the call without resolving anything. At 1:17 in the morning, Leah returned my house key. She placed it through the mail slot rather than ringing the bell, but the brass struck the hardwood floor hard enough to wake the dead, or at least a widow who had not been sleeping. I retrieved it and found a note folded around the ring. Ride confirmed. Breakfast handled. Graham is still an ass. Tessa cried in the restroom, so I didn't throw wine on him. You're welcome. I sat on the bottom stair and read it twice. Then I carried the silver-gray dress into the kitchen and removed it from its plastic. Leah was wrong about the color. It was not a rain cloud. In the warm kitchen light, it looked more like the inside of a seashell, soft and dignified. The beading at the neckline caught the light when I turned it. I had chosen it because Peter once told me silver made my hair look intentional. For 20 minutes, I stood there imagining both choices. In one version, I arrived at the hotel before the ceremony. Tessa hugged me. Someone moved a chair. Graham avoided my eyes until the music began. I sat in the front row beside Peter's photograph and proved that I could rise above an insult. Everyone relaxed. The wedding photographs looked complete. In the other version, my place stayed empty. The first version was easier for everyone except me. I put the dress back in its bag. At 7:15, Aunt Doreen called. "I have been told I'm riding with a man named Kevin," she announced. "Good morning, Doreen." "Who is Kevin?" "I don't know. He has a van. That sounds useful. Ray thinks he might be the florist. Then you'll arrive with excellent centerpieces." Doreen lowered her voice. "Are you not coming?" News traveled fastest through families when everyone claimed not to be gossiping. "I haven't decided." "Well, decide yes. Weddings are miserable enough without missing people." That is almost persuasive. Peter would tell you to go. Peter would tell me to go, then pick a fight with Graham in the parking lot. He did love a parking lot argument. We both laughed, and then neither of us did. "Whatever happened," she said, "don't make tomorrow carry all of it." After we hung up, I made coffee and stared at the dress. At 9, Tessa sent a photograph of the front row. The chairs had been rearranged. Peter's photograph remained on the aisle, and beside it was an empty chair with a white rose tied to the back, reserved for Marlene Foster, mother of the groom. The image should have softened me. Instead, it made the whole thing worse. I had been turned into another absence to be displayed. I typed 3 different replies before sending one. "I hope today is beautiful. I won't be there." Tessa responded with a single sentence. "I understand, even though I wish you had chosen differently." Graham did not contact me. By noon, I had showered, dressed in slacks and a cotton blouse, and put away the earrings I had planned to wear. I sealed the wedding card without adding the check, then hated myself for noticing that detail. I placed the card and cufflinks together in my dresser drawer. At 2:30, when I knew the ceremony music would be starting, I sat at my dining table among scraps of navy ribbon. My phone lit up with Graham's name. For one breathless second, I thought he was calling to ask me to come. Then his message appeared. "I hope making your point was worth missing my wedding." I read it until the words blurred. Outside, church bells began marking 3 o'clock, though the Riverside house was miles away from any church. I turned the phone face down. For the first time in Graham's life, I let him need something from me and did not answer. The phone stayed face down for 11 minutes. Then it vibrated again. Leah had sent 3 words. "Ceremony is over. No photograph. No description." She knew me well enough to understand that I wanted both and could bear neither. I wrote, "Was it lovely?" Her answer came quickly. "Yes." And hard. I carried the phone into the kitchen, placed it beside the sink, then came back for it 2 minutes later. Grief makes you ridiculous. You hide the knife and then wonder why you cannot cut anything. At 4:15, I poured out the coffee I had reheated twice. At 4:30, I moved the unfinished welcome bag from the dining table to the floor. At 5, I picked it up and put it back. I kept thinking of the chair with the white rose. If someone looked at the photographs years from now, what would they think? That I had died before the wedding? That illness had kept me away? Or would Graham explain that his mother had refused to attend because she had been seated 2 rows farther back than she preferred? The last version already sounded true if you left out enough words. At 6:20, Aunt Doreen called from the reception. Music thumped behind her. Someone yelled and a room full of people cheered. "I'm in the ladies' room," she said. "I gathered you weren't calling from the dance floor. I can dance and use a telephone." I remember. "You ruined Thanksgiving in 2009. That lamp was unstable. It was attached to the wall." She lowered her voice. "You should have come." I looked out the kitchen window at the empty bird feeder Peter had once promised to keep filled. How is Tessa? Beautiful. Tired. Her mother has cried through 2 napkins. And Graham? He's being charming. That was not an answer, and we both knew it. "Did they get breakfast?" I asked. "They got breakfast. Ray ate enough for a logging crew. So Kevin wasn't the florist? Kevin was the florist's brother. He also drives a van. Life contains multitudes." Another burst of cheering rose behind her. "They're cutting the cake," she said. "Do you want me to send a picture?" "No." Do you want me not to send one so you can be angry that no one did? Probably. You come by it honestly. Your mother once refused to look at my wedding album for 6 months because I wore her pearl earrings without asking. You stole her pearl earrings. I borrowed them permanently until the honeymoon was over. I smiled, but the muscles in my face felt unused. Doreen's voice softened. I don't know what he said. Yes, you do. I know what Elaine said. Leah said he said. That is how history is made in this family. But I know you. You can hold your ground so long you forget why you're standing there. The comment irritated me because it came from someone who once maintained a 17-year feud over a deviled egg plate. I didn't forget, I said. Good. Then you'll know when to sit down. She hung up before I could return the favor. The reception continued without me. I knew because my phone kept lighting up with accidental evidence. A cousin sent a photograph to the family message thread showing Tessa and Graham beneath strings of lights. Her face turned up toward his. Someone else posted a video of Peter's photograph beside the white roses. Elaine wrote, "He was certainly there in spirit." I muted the thread. At 8, Nadine called. I almost ignored her, but she had always been decent to me, and decency deserved an answer even when it arrived at a bad time. "Marlene," she said, "I only have a minute." "Then don't spend it apologizing for your daughter's wedding." I wasn't going to. That surprised me. "I'm sorry Graham said what he said," she continued. "But Tessa spent part of her wedding day looking at an empty chair. So did I." "Yes, I know." Her voice was level. She did not retreat from the point, and I respected her for it. "You should understand," I said. "The chair was empty before I decided not to sit in it." "I do understand. I also think you should have come. Those positions are inconvenient together. Most true things are." Somebody called her name in the background. "I'm not trying to fight with you," she said. "I'm trying to keep today from becoming the first day of something none of you know how to stop. That started yesterday. Maybe, but you all keep choosing tomorrow." Before I could answer, she said she had to go. We ended politely, which somehow left me more unsettled than if she had called me selfish. At 11:40, a car door slammed outside. Leah let herself in with the key I had forgotten to take off the floor. She was still in the green dress, though the hem was wrinkled and her shoes dangled from 2 fingers. In her other hand, she carried a white cardboard box. "I brought cake." "I'm not hungry." "That's fine. I am." She walked straight into the kitchen, found 2 forks, and placed the box on the table. Inside was a slice of white cake with raspberry filling and crushed flowers along one edge. "It got jostled," she said. "So did the family." "I walked into that one." She sat and took a bite directly from the box. "You could use a plate. I spent 9 hours watching people use the wrong forks with confidence. I'm done with plates." I sat across from her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "How did he look?" I asked. Leah swallowed, "Like a man getting married." "That tells me nothing." "He looked happy during the vows. He looked for you before the processional, even though he knew you weren't coming." My throat tightened. "He gave a good speech," she continued. "Mostly." "Mostly." "He thanked Dad." "That's appropriate." "He thanked Tessa's parents. He thanked the wedding party and everybody who helped." I waited. "He didn't mention you." I stared at the cake. "That's also appropriate," I said. "No, it wasn't. He was angry. So were you. You still made sure his elderly relatives had transportation and his guests got their aspirin. Doreen is 68, not elderly. Don't let her hear you. I'd rather face her than you right now." I looked up. "I didn't ask you to come here." "I know." "Then don't arrive at midnight and scold me." "I'm not scolding. I'm trying to figure out whether we're allowed to admit 2 things at once." "What 2 things?" "That Graham was vicious, and you wanted him to feel the cost of it today." I pushed back from the table. "You think I should have gone?" "I think I don't know. I think calling it a boundary doesn't automatically remove every ounce of punishment. That's a very polished observation for someone eating cake with her fingers. I'm using a fork out of a box." She put the fork down. "Mom," he told Elaine, "you refused to come because you weren't given a ceremonial role." I corrected him. Direct lie to my face. Your loophole. "What did you say?" I told her his exact words. Then Graham said it was a private conversation and I had no right to repeat it. A private conversation held beside an open ballroom. Elaine asked whether you threw the welcome bags at him. Why would I throw bags containing glass bottles? That was also my response. A laugh escaped me, sharp and brief. Leah laughed too, then covered her mouth as if we had violated something sacred. "How was Tessa after?" I asked. She danced. She talked to everybody. She was gracious when Elaine complained that the chicken was dry. It was chicken. You won that one. And later? Leah's expression changed. Later, she asked me if you always leave when you're hurt. The question entered the room and sat between us. What did you tell her? I said no. You usually stay and make everybody coffee. I looked toward the counter where my mug waited beside the sink. Leah closed the cake box. I also told Graham he doesn't get to act surprised. Then we had an argument behind the photo booth. Classy. The props gave us privacy. I called him a coward while holding a fake mustache. Your father would be proud. He said this wasn't only about the rehearsal. I know. He brought up when you made him move out. I know that too. Why didn't you tell me? Because you had just started a new job in Denver. Your father had been dead 9 months, and your brother was sleeping until noon in the room where I kept finding empty beer bottles. Leah's face tightened. He told me he was looking for work. He looked. He did not always apply. You gave him 30 days? I gave him 30 days after I gave him 14 months. She leaned back and studied me as if I had changed shape. Was he drinking a lot? He was grieving a lot. Sometimes grief came in bottles. Why didn't you say something? Because your brother was 32 years old. Because it was his life. Because every time I tell one of you the truth about the other, I become the family switchboard. Leah looked down. I had not meant to say that much. The kitchen seemed too bright. The raspberry filling too red. He thinks you chose yourself when he needed you, she said. I chose not to disappear with him. That sounds rehearsed. It's had several years to become a sentence. She reached across the table, not quite touching my hand. Do you regret not going today? Yes. The answer came easily. Would you make the same choice? I don't know. That answer was harder. Leah left after 1. She took the cake, claiming she was saving me from breakfast decisions, and returned the key to its hook beside the pantry. The messages slowed after that. Graham and Tessa left for a short trip 2 days later. I knew because Tessa texted to thank me for the welcome bags and tell me the guests had loved them. Graham sent nothing until Wednesday. Do you know where Ray's cane ended up? I answered. Ask the hotel. On Thursday, did you keep the extra ribbon receipts? I wrote, coordinator has them. The following Monday, we need someone at the house Friday for a furniture delivery. Any chance you're free? I stared at the message for a long time. Before the rehearsal, I would have checked my calendar, rearranged a dental appointment, packed a book, and spent 4 hours in their living room waiting for a delivery window wide enough to include most of human history. I wrote, no, you'll need to arrange it. He responded with a thumbs up. That tiny yellow hand infuriated me more than an argument. The next Sunday, I was reading at the kitchen table when my back door opened. Graham walked in, dropped his keys on the counter, and headed for the refrigerator. Where is everybody? He asked. I lowered my book. Who are you looking for? He opened the refrigerator as if the answer might be inside. It's Sunday. Yes. Aren't we having dinner? He had been married 8 days. He had missed me at his wedding, blamed me for missing it, and entered my house without knocking. But he had not come to apologize. He had come to be fed. Close the refrigerator, I said. Graham glanced over the door. What? You're letting the cold out. He shut it harder than necessary. I thought we did dinner on Sundays. We often do. So where is everyone? In their homes, I imagine. He looked around the kitchen. finally noticing there were no pots on the stove, no extra leaf in the table, no pie cooling near the window. Sunday dinner had never begun at my house before 1, but the preparations usually started by 9. Peter used to say the onions were our church bells. "You didn't tell anybody you canceled," Graham said. "I didn't cancel. I didn't invite. It's a standing thing. Apparently not for the person who buys the food and cooks it." He opened the refrigerator again. "Graham, I haven't eaten. You are 34 years old. I'm aware." "Are you?" "Because you entered my house without knocking and started looking for lunch." He took out a container of sliced turkey and set it on the counter. Dad gave me a key. "Your father has been dead 4 years. The key still works. That is not the point." "Then what is?" I looked at the ring he had dropped beside my sugar bowl. 3 silver keys, 1 brass key, a bottle opener from a brewery, and the little plastic tag from a gym he had not visited since the previous administration. "Give it back." His hand stopped over the bread drawer. "You're serious?" "Yes." "About my key to the house I grew up in, the house I live in." He stared at me long enough that I could see the argument changing shape behind his eyes. It began as outrage, shifted toward disbelief, then settled into the most useful version, injury. "You're just cutting everything off now. I asked you to knock. You asked for the key." "Because you did not knock. So if I'd knocked, we'd be fine?" "No. At least you admit it." I closed my book and placed it on the table. "Did you come here to talk to me?" "I came for dinner." "That is not better. I thought the family would be here." "Did you call anyone?" "I didn't think I needed to." "You didn't call me. You didn't ask whether I wanted company. You assumed I would spend my day preparing something for you, then walked through the door and asked where everyone was before you asked how I was." He looked at the turkey on the counter as if it had betrayed him. "How are you?" he said. "Don't. You wanted me to ask. I wanted it to occur to you. There's no right answer with you. There used to be. The right answer was whatever you needed." He shoved the turkey back into the refrigerator. "Tessa said this would happen. What would? That you'd turn one argument into a complete shutdown. That is not what she said to me." His face changed. "When did you talk to her?" "The night before the wedding. You had a private conversation with my fiancé while refusing to talk to me? You called me to ask where the eggs were. I was trying to keep everything from falling apart. The eggs were not load-bearing. You know what I mean. I do. That's the problem." He pulled out a chair but did not sit. "Tessa thinks I lied to her." "Did you?" "No. Did I tell you I didn't want a role in the ceremony? You said you didn't need one. Did you tell Tessa I didn't want one?" His jaw moved. "Those are different statements," I said. "I was trying to keep things simple." "For whom?" "Everybody. Everybody appears to mean you." He pushed the chair back under the table. "This is pointless." "Then why are you here?" "For dinner, apparently." "My mistake." He picked up his keys. "Leave the brass one." "No." The refusal was so quick that it sounded younger than he was. "Graham, Dad gave it to me when I was 16. Your father also gave you a rusted Ford and a fake identification card. He did not give me a fake ID. He drove you to a place where you bought one." "That is not the same thing. It was his legal defense as well." A reluctant twitch appeared at the corner of his mouth. It vanished before it became a smile. "This was still his house," he said. "It was our house. Now it's mine. You really know how to erase people." The kitchen went quiet. I saw Peter's chair at the wedding. I saw the photograph from Maine. I saw my own white rose tied to an empty seat. Then I saw the green cufflink box in my dresser, exactly where I had placed it. "Do not say that to me." Graham looked away first. "I didn't mean Dad." "Then who did you mean?" He paced to the sink, stared out the window, and came back. "You missed my wedding." "Yes. You didn't even call. You told me my invitation was a courtesy. I told you Leah was the reason you were at the rehearsal. You revised it to that after Tessa heard, because that's what I meant. It isn't what you said. Oh, come on, you knew I wanted you at the wedding." "No, Graham, I did not. You were on the guest list. There was a chair for you." There was a chair after I left. That's how weddings work. Things change. Problems get fixed. You think the problem was furniture. I think you wanted proof that everyone would rearrange the room for you. The accusation was ugly because part of it touched a truth I had already considered. The photograph of that chair had not comforted me. It had angered me. Some portion of me had wanted something a chair could not fix, yet I had never named it. I wanted my son to take back what he said, I told him. So you missed the wedding to teach me a lesson. I stayed home because I believed you. You didn't believe me. You chose the interpretation that hurt the most. You made it remarkably easy. He turned away again. For the first time, I noticed how tired he looked. There were faint shadows beneath his eyes, and his hair had been cut shorter for the wedding, revealing a pale line above his right ear from a bicycle accident in college. I had driven 4 hours after that accident because he told me not to come, and I knew he meant the opposite. "Did you look for me?" I asked. His shoulders shifted. "At the ceremony. You said you weren't coming." "That wasn't my question." He faced me. "Yes." The answer was quiet. I gripped the edge of the table. "Then why didn't you call? You made your choice. So did you. I was getting married. And I was your mother. You keep saying that like it gives you immunity." "From what?" "From ever being the one who leaves." The sentence opened a door I had been trying not to see. "This is about when you lived here." He laughed without humor. "You mean when Dad died and you decided there was a deadline on grieving?" "There was a deadline on living in my house without contributing. I could barely get out of bed." "I know. You acted like I was lazy. I acted like I was drowning. You told me you couldn't keep arranging your life around my emergencies." I remembered saying it in this kitchen. Graham had been wearing Peter's old robe at 2 in the afternoon. I had come home from the grocery store and found 3 unopened letters from employers on the hall table because he had started applying for jobs using my address and then stopped opening the responses. "I should not have said it that way," I told him. "You said it exactly the way you meant it." "No. I said it the way exhausted people say true things badly, and then you gave me 30 days. After 14 months. Why does the number make it kinder? It doesn't. It makes it context." He looked toward the back door. "I thought you were going to disappear in this house," I said. "I thought if I kept cooking and paying and pretending you were recovering, I would wake up one day and realize I had helped you become smaller. You could have helped me without throwing me out. I tried. You help the way you always help. You make a list and take over. What did you want? I wanted you to want me there." The words hurt because they sounded too much like my own. "I did want you," I said. "I did not want the life we were living." He picked up his keys again. "Maybe now you understand the difference." The sentence came so softly I almost missed it. "What does that mean?" "Nothing." "No. Look at me." He did. "Did you want me to feel unwelcome at the wedding?" His expression closed. "I wanted one day that wasn't organized around your reactions. That is not an answer. It's the only one you're getting." He pulled the brass key from the ring and placed it on the counter. The sound it made was very small. "I hope you enjoy your quiet house," he said. Then he left. I stood in the kitchen until his car disappeared from the driveway. The turkey remained in the refrigerator. The brass key lay beside the sugar bowl. I had gotten exactly what I asked for. It did not feel like victory. That evening, the family message thread began discussing the following Sunday. Elaine asked whether I wanted her to bring potatoes. Doreen offered a pie, which meant she planned to buy one and remove it from the box. I wrote, "I'm taking a break from hosting dinners. Someone else is welcome to plan." The replies stopped for 12 minutes. Then Doreen wrote, "Ray and I live in a condo. If more than 6 of you come, 2 must remain vertical at all times." Leah offered her apartment, though everyone knew 8 adults in Leah's dining area would require a treaty. Nadine, who had somehow been added to the thread after the wedding, suggested a restaurant. Graham said nothing. The next Sunday, I had lunch with Celia Barnes, the retired hygienist from my old dental office. She talked for 20 minutes about a man she had met in a pottery class who wore leather bracelets and referred to his divorce as a spiritual molting. "You need a hobby," she told me. "I have hobbies. Name one that doesn't produce food for someone else." I opened my mouth. Celia pointed her fork at me. Exactly. I did not tell her about the rehearsal. I told her only that Graham and I had argued and I was changing some routines. "Good," she said. "Routines are just ruts with better public relations." The sentence stayed with me. On Friday afternoon, my doorbell rang. Tessa stood on the porch in jeans and a navy sweater, her wedding ring still unfamiliar on her hand. She carried no flowers, no borrowed dish, and no excuse. "Does Graham know you're here?" I asked. "He knows I'm visiting you. He doesn't know what I'm going to ask." I stepped back. She entered but remained near the door. "I want to know what happened after Peter died," she said. "And I want to tell you what happened before the rehearsal." "Those sound like two different conversations," I said. "They probably are." I took her coat and hung it beside the back door. Tessa watched me as though I might use the hanger incorrectly. "Coffee?" "Yes, please, I have tea. Coffee's good. Are you sure?" "Marlene, I can choose a beverage." "Of course." I filled the kettle anyway, realized what I was doing, and set it back on the stove without turning it on. Tessa noticed. Neither of us mentioned it. While the coffee brewed, she walked to the dining room and looked at the remnants of the welcome bags. I had thrown away the loose tissue paper, but the navy ribbon still occupied one corner of the table. The unfinished bag stood beneath a chair. "I meant what I said in my message," she told me. "People love them. People like free aspirin. They like the maps, too." I printed those before the city closed River Street. 3 guests got lost. I wondered why they were popular. She smiled, then pressed her lips together. We carried our cups to the kitchen table. She took the chair Graham usually used and seemed to realize it only after she sat. Her gaze moved toward the brass key, which was still beside the sugar bowl. "He gave it back," she said. "I asked him to. He told me." "How did he phrase it?" "That you revoked his access to his childhood home." Impressive. It took him less than a minute to enter without knocking and 4 years to become evicted. Tessa wrapped both hands around her cup. "He's good at phrasing things. So am I." "Yes." There was no malice in it. That made the comment harder to dismiss. "Tell me what happened before the rehearsal," I said. She looked down into her coffee. The seating plan was not the coordinator's fault. I suspected the woman did not independently classify the groom's mother as extended family. She had you in the front row in the first draft. Across the aisle from my parents? What changed? Graham. The answer was quiet, but it did not surprise me. I wished it had. "He said you would be uncomfortable next to Dad's chair," she continued. "He said you hated people watching you react. I do hate that, I know, or I think I know. He said it would be kinder to put you near Elaine because you two were close. Elaine once borrowed my carpet cleaner and returned it with mud in the water tank." "I didn't know that. It defines our relationship." Tessa rubbed her thumb across the edge of her wedding ring. "I asked whether we should talk to you," she said. "Graham said you'd insist everything was fine and then become upset on the day. He said this was the kind of decision someone had to make for you. That sounded so much like me that I could not breathe for a second. Peter used to say I made decisions for people because asking them created delays. I had arranged Graham's college visits before he chose schools. I had once scheduled a dentist appointment for Leah while she was living in another state. And you believed him?" I said. "He's my husband. That does not answer the question." "Yes, I believed him. I appreciated the lack of decoration." "What about the ceremony?" The officiant suggested both mothers light the candle. I stared at her. "I thought you didn't want to," she said quickly. "Graham said you would find it sentimental. I would have found it sentimental. But would you have done it?" "Yes." The word came out before pride could interfere. Tessa closed her eyes briefly. "Nadine was nervous about doing it alone," I said. She practiced with a candle in her kitchen. That sounds like Nadine. She singed a dish towel. That also sounds like Nadine. We both smiled, but Tessa's eyes had begun to shine. I should have called you, she said. Yes. I should have asked. Yes. I'm sorry. It was a complete apology. No explanation attached to it. No request that I make her feel better. I had forgotten how disarming that could be. Thank you, I said. She nodded once. Now I need you to tell me what happened when Graham lived here. I got up and carried my coffee to the counter, though the cup was still full. He told you I gave him 30 days. He told me he came home after Peter died because he was depressed and couldn't work. He said you became angry after 6 weeks and told him he had a month to leave. 6 weeks? He said it felt like 6 weeks. Time is flexible when someone else pays the electric bill. That's why I'm here. I don't know what's true anymore. I turned around. Do you think I'm going to give you an unbiased version? No, I think your version exists and I have never heard it. That was fair. I sat again. Graham came here after he lost his job in Chicago, I said. That happened 7 months after Peter died, not immediately. He said he needed a few weeks. I said he could stay as long as necessary because that is what mothers say when they are frightened. Frightened of what? He sounded wrong on the phone. Flat. He had stopped answering Leah. He had stopped paying bills. By the time he arrived, everything he owned smelled like the inside of his car. Tessa looked toward the hallway leading to the guest room. For the first 2 months he slept, I continued. I didn't bother him. I cooked. I made appointments he didn't keep. I told relatives he was freelancing because he asked me not to say he had been fired. He told me he quit. Perhaps he eventually improved the story for himself. She looked away. He drank, I said. Not every day. Not always too much. Enough that I began counting bottles, which is an ugly way to live with someone. Why didn't he tell me? You'd have to ask him. Did Peter drink? Peter enjoyed being the man who ordered another round. Sometimes he enjoyed it after everyone else had stopped. She absorbed that without dramatics. Was he an alcoholic? I don't know. He went months without drinking and then behaved as if moderation had insulted him personally. He loved us. He went to work. He also left me to be the one who said enough. And Graham knew? Graham knew what he saw. He also knew his father was fun and his mother ruined fun on schedule. That isn't how he describes you. How does he describe me? Capable. The word did not sound like praise. I folded my hands. By the 8th month, Graham had stopped looking for work. By the 10th, he refused to talk to a counselor because he said grief wasn't a disease. By the 14th, I was waking up every morning angry before my feet touched the floor. So you told him to leave. I told him he had 30 days to find work or somewhere else to live. I had already offered to pay for therapy for 6 months and the deposit on an apartment. He heard only the deadline. Did you say you couldn't arrange your life around his emergencies? Yes. Why? Because it was true. Tessa's expression hardened slightly. And cruel, I added. It loosened again. I said it after he accused me of caring more about the house being clean than whether he lived or died. I was angry. He was angry. The sentence has lived longer than the moment. Did he take the apartment money? No. He moved in with a friend and did not speak to me for 3 months. Then he met me. Not long after. He said you never approved of how quickly we moved in together. I worried you had become the next place he was hiding. Her head lifted. That was unfair to you, I said. And I never said it aloud. You didn't have to. You looked at my apartment like you were conducting a fire inspection. There were 6 candles burning beside a curtain. I like candles. I like fire codes. A laugh surprised her. It surprised me, too. Then she said, After you left the rehearsal, Graham told me you'd be back. I stopped smiling. He said you always threatened to withdraw, but never did. I do not threaten. He said, She'll show up tomorrow. She needs everybody to know she saved the day. The words were precise enough that I could hear his voice saying them. What did you say? I told him that sounded awful. He said I didn't understand your relationship. He uses that sentence whenever someone understands it too well. Tessa pushed her cup away. He didn't arrange breakfast until Leah made him, she said. He didn't call Doreen. He assumed you would cool down, come back, and handle everything. Even after what he said, that hurt differently. Not a fresh cut, but pressure against the first one. I didn't come, I said. No, and you had to deal with the consequences. Yes. I waited. Tessa looked directly at me. I understand why you stayed home. I also hated you a little for it. The honesty startled me. You were not the person I was trying to punish, but I was punished. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to say the wedding still happened, that her dress was beautiful, that one empty chair did not ruin vows or cake or dancing. Those would have been Graham's arguments in my voice. I'm sorry, I said. You paid for a decision that wasn't directed at you. She nodded, eyes lowered. I still could not have attended after what he said, I added. I know, both things are true. I know that too. We sat with the inconvenience of it. Before she left, Tessa paused beside the dining table and lifted the unfinished welcome bag. Can I take this? Why? I don't know. It feels like it belongs to the wedding. It's missing chocolate. So was half the marriage advice we received. Nobody complained. I handed it to her. At the door, she put on her coat and said, There's a family dinner Tuesday at the Italian place on Grove. I heard, Are you coming? I haven't decided. Graham will be there. That does not improve the invitation. I'm not asking for him. Why are you asking? Because I don't want the only empty chair in this family to keep being yours. I went. Tuesday night, Graham watched me enter the restaurant with Leah. Tessa was already seated beside him, the unfinished welcome bag tucked beneath her chair. He looked at it, then at me. Throughout dinner, he spoke to everyone except me. When Elaine asked why I had stopped Sunday dinners, he said, Mom's making some changes. His tone gave the changes a medical quality. I'm taking a break from hosting, I said. Elaine nodded sympathetically. After all the wedding stress, after all the assumptions, Leah said. Under the table, I kicked her ankle. When dinner ended, Graham followed me into the parking lot. You talked to Tessa, he said. She came to my house. You told her things I trusted you not to repeat. You never asked me to lie to your wife. You don't get to recruit her because you're angry with me. I did not recruit anyone. He stepped closer, his face tight. Then stay out of my marriage. I held his gaze. Tell your marriage, I said, to stay out of my kitchen. Graham stared at me as if I had slapped him with a dish towel. That's cute, he said. It wasn't intended to be. You know exactly what you're doing. I'm standing in a parking lot wishing I had ordered dessert. You told Tessa I was drinking when I lived with you. She asked what happened, and you gave her the ugliest version. I told her I tried to manage you, lost my temper, and said something cruel. How generous. I told her I was afraid. I told her I was angry. I told her I helped badly, but you made sure she knew about the bottles. A couple walked past us toward the restaurant, then slowed once they were beyond Graham, hoping the argument would remain audible. I lowered my voice. You have a right to privacy. You do not have a right to build that privacy out of lies about me. I never lied. You told her you stayed here 6 weeks. I said it felt like 6 weeks. 14 months does not become 6 weeks because you were unhappy. That's not what I meant. You say that often after people react to the words you choose. His face flushed. The restaurant door opened behind him. Tessa stepped outside with a welcome bag in one hand and her purse in the other. I asked her, she said. Graham turned. This is between me and my mother. No, it stopped being only between you two when you told me a version I used to make decisions. I didn't ask you to come out here. Leah said if I didn't, she would. Through the restaurant window, I saw my daughter standing near the register with her arms folded. She lifted 2 fingers at me. Of course she did. Graham looked from Tessa to me. This is what you wanted. I wanted a seat at your wedding. You had one. Marlene, Tessa said quietly. She was right. We were stepping onto familiar ground because familiar ground required no thought. I pulled my coat closed against the wind. I didn't invite Tessa to my house. I didn't call her. I answered her questions. If you want distance from me, Graham, say so plainly. His expression flickered. You've already created plenty of distance. That is not an answer. He shoved his hands into his pockets. Fine. I think we should give this some space. How much? I don't know. A week? A month? Until everyone forgets what you said? Why does everything need terms with you? Because vague arrangements always seem to become work I'm expected to do. Tessa looked down at the welcome bag. Graham noticed. Why did you bring that? I wanted it. It's trash from the wedding. It isn't trash. It's an unfinished bag. So are we, Tessa said. I looked away. The line was too polished for the moment, but her eyes were wet, so I forgave it. Graham did not. Can we go home? He asked her. Yes. He started toward their car, then stopped beside me. I shouldn't have come into your house without knocking, he said. The apology was stiff and irritated. It was also an apology. Thank you, I said. He nodded once. I waited for more. None came. Tessa touched my arm before following him. The welcome bag swung at her side, one navy ribbon trailing near the pavement. Leah came outside after their car left. How much did you hear? I asked. Enough to know my entree is sitting in my stomach like a brick. You should have stayed inside. You're welcome. I did not thank you. You were about to get outnumbered. It was not a vote. Leah studied my face. He apologized about the key. Yes, that's something. It is. You sound disappointed. I am capable of holding two things at once. Oh, good. We've all learned the phrase. She linked her arm through mine before I could object and walked me toward my car. I'm not carrying messages, she said. I didn't ask you to. You were going to. I was going to ask whether he seemed all right. That is a message wearing a fake mustache. Despite myself, I laughed. Ask him yourself, she said. He asked for space. Then give it to him. Just don't pretend silence is something he did alone. She kissed my cheek and returned to the restaurant. I drove home irritated with every member of my family in individual, carefully labeled ways. The next family dinner was held at a steakhouse near Doreen's condo. Graham and Tessa did not attend. The one after that took place in Leah's apartment, where Elaine sat on a folding chair and complained that the table was too close to the wall. Graham came alone, stayed 40 minutes, and spoke to me only when I asked him to pass the salt. The dinners continued, but without my dining room, they felt temporary. Nobody knew who should arrive early. Nobody brought containers for leftovers. Doreen purchased an apple pie and forgot to thaw it, so we ate slices cold enough to hurt our teeth. You see what happens when you resign, she told me. You become responsible for dessert? Civilization weakens. I expected the family to pressure me into hosting again. Instead, they adapted badly, then slightly better. Leah bought a table that extended. Elaine learned how to roast potatoes. Ray began making salads containing enough cheese to disqualify them from being salads. That should have relieved me. Some nights it did. Other nights, I stood in my quiet kitchen at 5 on Sunday and listened for cars that were not coming. Doreen appeared one Wednesday afternoon carrying the same white pie box from the steakhouse. I brought the remains, she announced. You carried frozen pie around for 10 days? It has been refrigerated. That was not my question. She put the box in my refrigerator before I could refuse it and began inspecting my counters. You moved the toaster. I cleaned behind it. Why? I had time. She turned and gave me a long look. That's what I'm worried about. I'm not suffering from excess toaster hygiene. You're nesting. This has been my home for 38 years. You're nesting inside the nest. I put 2 cups on the counter. Coffee? No. I came to say something, and caffeine will only improve your rebuttal. That has never stopped you before. She sat at the kitchen table and looked at the brass key beside the sugar bowl. I had not found another place for it. Graham called Ray, she said. What did he want? To borrow a socket wrench. Ray has never owned a socket wrench. He told him that. What does this have to do with me? Nothing. That's the point. Graham called someone else when he needed something. I leaned against the counter. Good. You don't mean that. I asked him to stop treating me like a service desk. Yes, and now that he has, you look offended. I do not. You moved the toaster. I picked up the brass key and put it in the drawer beside the takeout menus. Better? No. Now you're performing growth. You came into my house carrying inedible pie to criticize my appliances. I came to tell you a boundary is a fence, Marlene. It does not have to be a bunker. I am not hiding. When did you last call your son? He asked for space. You asked how much, and he didn't know. That's not the same as never. I am respecting what he said. Maybe. Or maybe you finally found a respectable name for being stubborn. I set her cup in the sink harder than necessary. You weren't there, I said. No, but I've heard about it from Elaine, which means I've heard 5 versions, 2 of them involving thrown chocolates. I did not throw anything. I know. You would have sorted the chocolates by flavor before throwing them. I tried not to smile. Doreen stood and buttoned her coat. Peter's anniversary is next Thursday. I know. What are you doing? I haven't decided. For the last 3 years, Graham came here. I remember. They had not been elaborate memorials. Graham would arrive with ground beef and insist on making Peter's chili, a recipe Peter claimed was secret despite the fact that it came from the back of a seasoning packet. Leah would bring cornbread. We would tell the same stories until they became more rhythm than memory. Invite him, Doreen said. He knows the date. That isn't an invitation. He knows this is his home. You took his key. I asked him to knock. Doreen sighed. You can make a doorway very complicated. After she left, I put the pie in the trash. Then I took it back out because wasting food to prove a point to an absent woman was the kind of behavior that got you discussed at restaurants. Celia convinced me to attend her pottery class that Saturday. The man with the leather bracelets was named Russell. He spoke softly about clay having memory while producing a bowl shaped like an injured hat. Mine was worse. You're strangling it, Celia said. I'm centering it. It has surrendered. The clay collapsed beneath my hands, wet and gray and completely indifferent to competence. I laughed so hard I had to turn off the wheel. It had been a long time since I did something badly in public without apologizing. When I got home, gray clay remained beneath my fingernails. I stood at the kitchen sink washing my hands and thought about calling Graham. I picked up the phone. I put it down. I picked it up again. Leah called before I could decide. What are we doing Thursday? She asked. I don't know. Are we going to the cemetery? I am. What time? Morning. Is Graham coming? You'll have to ask him. No. I retired from telecommunications. I thought you refused to be the family switchboard. I learned from the best. We agreed to meet at the cemetery at 10. Thursday morning was cold and clear. Leah arrived carrying coffee. We walked together through rows of damp grass toward Peter's grave. Fresh red carnations were already lying against the stone. Graham had never bought carnations in his life. Tessa had chosen them. I knew it without evidence. Leah crouched and touched one flower. They were here before us, she said. Yes, he could have called. So could I. We stood on opposite sides of Peter's name, each of us trying not to turn him into an argument. My phone vibrated in my coat pocket. A message from Graham. Were those Dad's cufflinks you brought to the rehearsal? I stared at the screen. Leah did not ask who it was. I typed, yes. His reply appeared before I lowered the phone. Can I have them? They were always meant for you, I typed. The 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. Can Leah bring them? I looked across Peter's grave at my daughter. She had moved a fallen leaf away from the carnations and was now pretending not to watch me. No, I wrote. You can pick them up Sunday at 2. His answer took longer. Okay. I put the phone back in my pocket. Not carrying anything, Leah said. I didn't ask. You looked at me with courier energy. I told him to come himself. Good. She handed me one of the coffees. Mine had gone lukewarm, but I drank it anyway. We stood beside Peter's grave without speaking. The stone was modest because Peter had hated anything he considered showy, though he once bought a red convertible with cream leather seats and called it practical transportation. "The carnations are nice," I said. "Tessa's favorite color is red. Your father disliked carnations. He called them funeral flowers. He said that about lilies. He said it about anything sold near a funeral home." Leah smiled. I crouched and straightened the stems. The red blooms were still wet from the florist's cooler. "I gave away his blue suit," I said. Leah glanced at me. "What?" "After he died. The one he wore to your college graduation. I remember." "Graham was angry. You gave away a lot of Dad's clothes. I couldn't open the closet, so you emptied it. I thought the two choices were the same." Leah took a sip of coffee. "Were they?" "No." The admission felt strange, spoken aloud, not because I had never considered it, but because I had considered it so often it no longer seemed like a thought. It had become part of the furniture. "I kept asking whether you wanted anything," I said. "You asked while we were planning a funeral. I know. I took his watch because you put it in my hand. You always liked it. I wore it once. It felt like I had stolen his wrist." I laughed softly. We stayed until the cold worked through our shoes. Before leaving, Leah placed her palm against the top of the stone. I did not. I had never liked touching it. Peter was not in granite, and I resented the suggestion. On Sunday, Graham knocked at precisely 2. Not 2 minutes before, not 2 minutes after. The doorbell rang once, followed by 3 hard taps that sounded less like respect for a boundary than a formal protest against it. I opened the door. "Hello," he said. "Hello." He remained on the porch. "Are you going to invite me in? You have to give me time. I'm adjusting to the new procedure." He looked past me into the hallway. "Can I come in?" "Yes." It was the first time he had asked in years. I had set the green box on the kitchen table. I had also made coffee and arranged 4 store-bought cookies on a plate. The arrangement bothered me. 4 cookies looked planned. 3 looked stingy. 5 looked emotional. Graham noticed them immediately. "Did you bake?" "They came in plastic." "Good. What does that mean?" "Nothing." He took his usual chair, then glanced at me as if waiting to see whether that, too, required permission. I poured coffee. "The cufflinks are there," I said. He lifted the box but did not open it. His thumb moved over the worn green fabric. "You said they were Dad's wedding cufflinks." "Yes." "Why didn't you give them to me before?" "I tried at the rehearsal. You closed the box and put it away. You had just told me I was there as a courtesy, so you punished me with Dad's things." I sat across from him. "I did not punish you with anything. You brought them for me, got angry, and took them home. I brought them as your mother. You made it very clear you didn't want me participating as your mother. They were his, and they were in my dresser." The sentence sounded territorial. I heard it too late. Graham looked down at the box. "Right. That isn't what I meant." He gave me a thin smile. "You say that often." I deserved it. "I meant they were part of something personal I wanted to give you," I said. "When you told me my presence was an obligation, I no longer trusted the moment. You could have left them with the suit. I could have. I didn't. Why? Because I was hurt and angry and I wanted to take something home that still felt like mine." His eyes lifted. There it was, the answer without a moral attached. Not noble, not calculated, simply true. He opened the box. Peter's cufflinks rested against faded cream satin. Graham touched one with the tip of his finger, but did not take it out. "I wore the silver ones from Tessa's father," he said. "I saw them in a photograph. You looked at the pictures?" "Some." "Tessa thought you wouldn't. Tessa has underestimated my capacity for self-inflicted pain." His mouth twitched. I pushed the cookie plate toward him. He took one, proving nothing, and somehow relieving me. "I wanted Dad there," he said. "I know." "No, I mean, I really needed him. Represented somehow. Everyone kept talking about how he should have been there. The chair made it feel like we had decided he was. It was a beautiful chair. That sounds sarcastic. It is difficult to compliment furniture sincerely. He set down the cookie. I wasn't trying to replace you. It felt that way. It wasn't about you. So, you've said. That's not an insult. Sometimes telling someone they had no place in your thinking is not the comfort you imagine. He leaned back. I knew you wouldn't like the chair, he said. Then why didn't you tell me? Because you would have said it was fine. I might have. You would have smiled, helped arrange the flowers, and spent the next 6 months making comments about being less important than a photograph. I do not make comments for 6 months. You still bring up the Christmas I gave you a blender. It was not wrapped. It came in a box. It was the shipping box, Graham. My address was printed on it. He rubbed his forehead, but this time he laughed. The sound startled both of us. For a few seconds, we sat in the old rhythm. He teased. I objected. The kitchen became ordinary again. Then he looked toward the hall. You got rid of Dad's things fast. The rhythm broke. Some of them. Most of them. I kept what seemed important. To you, yes. I was the one living with them. I wanted his blue suit. You never told me that. I shouldn't have had to make a list at the funeral. No, you shouldn't have. He had come prepared for resistance. My agreement left him momentarily unbalanced. I'm sorry, I said. I handled Peter's clothes like a task because tasks ended. Grief didn't. I should have waited. He turned one cufflink over in his hand. That suit wouldn't have fit me. That isn't the point. No, I gave it to the employment center. Someone probably wore it to an interview. Dad would have liked that. He would have worried the man chose the wrong tie. Graham smiled down at the cufflink. Then he said, Tessa told me what you said about his drinking. She asked why you were struggling when you lived here. You could have answered without dragging him into it. Perhaps. You make him sound irresponsible. He was irresponsible sometimes. He's not here to defend himself. I defended him for 40 years. That's dramatic. It's accurate. Graham closed the box. I could feel the conversation tipping toward the old cliff. I could have stepped back. Instead, I moved closer. Your father was loving and funny and generous, I said. He was also very good at leaving difficult decisions to me and then comforting everyone who disliked them. That isn't how I remember him. You were not married to him, and you weren't his son. The words stopped me. Graham's face was flushed, but he had not raised his voice. You're right, I said. He looked surprised again. You knew a version of him I didn't, I continued, and I knew one you didn't. Neither cancels the other. Then why tell Tessa the worst part? Because you were repeating part of it. His chair scraped backward. I am not Dad. I didn't say you were. You counted my bottles. I was afraid. You gave me a deadline. I was afraid. You're always afraid, and somehow everyone else gets managed because of it. I gripped my coffee cup. You were depressed, Graham. You were drinking, sleeping all day, and refusing help. I needed my family. You had me, until I became inconvenient. You had me for 14 months. There's that number again, because it happened. He stood and put the green box into his coat pocket. Thank you for the cufflinks. You're welcome. The politeness was worse than shouting. He walked to the back door, then stopped beside the counter. Why didn't you call Thursday? I stared at him. Why didn't you? I brought flowers. For your father. You were going to see them. I did. So I included you. You left flowers in a cemetery before I arrived. That is not including me. He looked down. I didn't know whether you wanted me there, he said. The sentence was so close to the center of things that both of us became still. I didn't know whether you wanted me at your wedding, I said. I did. Not enough to say it. He looked toward the door. I didn't know how to call after everything. Neither did I. We had finally reached a place where blame could not move without circling back. Graham put his hand on the doorknob. Tessa and I have been fighting, he said. I'm sorry. She thinks I wanted to humiliate you. I did not answer. Did she say that to you? No. Do you think I did? Yes. His hand tightened on the knob. I wanted to soften it. I wanted to add sometimes, perhaps in that moment, without understanding it. All of those might also have been true, but he had asked what I thought. He nodded once. At least you're honest? Graham, I have to go. He left before I could decide whether to stop him. The coffee cooled. One cookie remained on the plate, which proved I had chosen the correct number after all. I did not hear from him for 11 days. Tessa sent no messages. Leah refused every attempt I made to ask how they were without technically asking how they were. When I said I wondered whether Graham liked the cufflinks, she replied, "That sounds like a Graham question." When I mentioned he had taken only one cookie, she told me to seek professional help. My pottery bowl came out of the kiln with a crack down one side. Russell said the crack gave it authenticity. It gives it drainage, I said. Celia suggested I use it for keys. I placed it on the kitchen counter and put the brass house key inside. The bowl leaned slightly left as if listening. The family message thread began discussing Thanksgiving. For 31 years, everyone had eaten at my house. Even after Peter died, I roasted the turkey, made 2 kinds of stuffing, and complained that no one had arrived early enough while refusing every offer of help. This time I wrote, "I won't be hosting, but I'm happy to bring a dish wherever we decide." The silence lasted only 4 minutes. Elaine offered her house, then withdrew the offer after remembering her oven door did not close properly. Doreen suggested a restaurant. Ray objected on the grounds that restaurant gravy lacked moral character. Finally, Leah wrote, "My place. 12 adults maximum. Folding chairs welcome. Mom brings nothing unless assigned." I responded, "I can make stuffing." Leah wrote, "You can bring ice." Doreen added, "This is what happens when power changes hands." Graham remained silent until the next morning. Then a private message appeared. "Tessa and I will come to Thanksgiving, if that's okay." I read it twice before answering. "Of course it's okay." His reply came almost immediately. "I was asking Leah. Sent it to you by mistake." For several seconds, embarrassment burned hotter than anger. Then another message appeared. "But I'm glad you'll be there." I typed, "So am I." Then I deleted it because it looked too eager. I typed, "Thank you." That looked cold. After several attempts, I sent a thumbs up and immediately understood why Graham's earlier thumbs up had made me want to throw my phone into traffic. He responded with nothing. Leah assigned Thanksgiving dishes with the authority of a woman directing an evacuation. Doreen got pie. Ray got salad. Elaine got potatoes but was warned not to experiment with truffle oil. Nadine volunteered rolls. Tessa offered cranberry sauce and wine. I got ice. "I can cook," I told Leah over the phone. "I have seen you cook. Then you understand the assignment makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. You said you'd bring what you were assigned. I assumed it would be food. Ice is consumed. Only by people with dental problems. You managed a dental office. This is your moment." I bought 3 bags. On Thanksgiving morning, I woke at 6 out of habit. For 31 years, the day had begun before sunrise with butter softening on the counter and Peter pretending he had volunteered to handle the turkey. He would stand in the kitchen holding a cup of coffee and reading the roasting instructions aloud until I took them from him. That morning, my kitchen was silent. I made toast. I watched the clock. At 7:30, I nearly started stuffing anyway. At 8, I took the bread cubes from the pantry, stared at them, and put them back. The problem with giving up a roll was discovering how much empty time had been hiding inside it. Celia called at 10. "Did you make anything?" she asked. "I bought ice." She whistled. "Rebellion?" "I bought 3 kinds." "There are kinds?" "Cubed, crushed, and overpriced. You'll be the talk of the table." I usually am. Try not to correct anyone's turkey. I don't correct turkeys. I correct the people preparing them. Leah's apartment smelled like onions and panic when I arrived. She opened the door wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the cook," though the expression on her face warned against it. "You're early." By 7 minutes. That is early in foster time. I brought ice. All of it? I wanted options. Her living room had been rearranged to accommodate 2 folding tables covered with mismatched cloths. The new extending table occupied the center, and chairs seemed to have migrated in from every room. One was clearly a desk chair. Another looked borrowed from a patio. "Where do you want these?" I asked. "In the bathtub." I stared at her. "The freezer is full." "You're putting beverage ice in a bathtub?" "In sealed bags. Your shower curtain sheds." "It does not. It did the last time I was here. That was the old curtain. I'm going to inspect it." Leah blocked the hallway. "You are going to put the ice in the tub and walk away." I carried the bags to the bathroom. The new shower curtain was perfectly clean, which I found almost disappointing. When I returned, Leah pointed to a chair. "Sit. What needs doing?" "Nothing. The onions are too high. They're in a bowl. They're piled above the rim." "Mom." I sat. Nadine and her husband Frank arrived with rolls and a bottle of bourbon. Doreen and Ray followed, arguing about whether the pie had shifted in the car. Elaine came alone carrying potatoes in a casserole dish wrapped with enough foil to interfere with radio signals. Everyone expressed surprise at seeing me seated. "Are you ill?" Doreen asked. "I'm respecting Leah's kitchen." "Against your will?" "Respect is respect." Guest of Elaine, whose name I finally learned was Howard, arrived 10 minutes later with flowers. He was not Elaine's guest in any romantic sense. He was her neighbor, and apparently the only person willing to carry her folding chair up 3 flights of stairs. "You were at the wedding," I said. He nodded. 3rd row, small world, smaller row. Elaine looked confused. I gave Howard a glass of wine. Graham and Tessa arrived last. Conversation altered when the door opened. Not stopped. Altered. Voices rose half a note and became suddenly interested in weather. Tessa carried cranberry sauce in a glass bowl. Graham held 2 bottles of wine in a bakery box. "We brought cookies," he said to no one in particular. "Did they come in plastic?" I asked. His eyes met mine. "Yes." "Good." The corner of his mouth moved. Tessa hugged Leah, then Nadine. She hesitated before reaching me. I solved it by holding out my hand for the cranberry bowl. She laughed. "Hello to you, too." "Hello." She hugged me anyway, careful of the bowl between us. Graham gave me a brief kiss on the cheek. It happened so quickly I wondered whether either of us had chosen it. "Happy Thanksgiving," he said. "You too." No one applauded. No music swelled. Elaine immediately asked where the serving spoons were, and the room remembered how to breathe. Dinner was delayed because the turkey's temperature refused to cooperate. Leah stabbed it with 3 different thermometers, as if seeking a second opinion. "Put it back in for 20 minutes, I said. Every head turned toward me. "I'm allowed 1 statement, I said. That was it." Leah put the turkey back. We ate potatoes and rolls while waiting. Ray's salad contained blue cheese, cheddar, candied walnuts, and what appeared to be half a bottle of dressing. "This is a cheese course with lettuce," Nadine said. "Thank you," Ray replied. It wasn't praise. The folding tables wobbled. Howard fixed one with a coaster. Frank told a story about getting lost on the way to the wedding despite my map. He blamed road construction. I accepted this as a gracious lie. For almost an hour, we managed. Then Elaine asked Tessa whether the wedding photographs had arrived. "Some previews," Tessa said. "You have to show Marlene. She hasn't seen the official ones." Leah closed her eyes. "I've seen photographs," I said. "Not these." Elaine was already reaching for Tessa's phone. "There's a beautiful one of Peter's chair." Doreen kicked Elaine beneath the table. "Ow, muscle spasm," Doreen said. Tessa placed her phone face down. "Maybe later." Elaine rubbed her ankle. "I only meant it was a lovely memorial." "It was," I said. Graham stared at his plate. Howard leaned toward Elaine. "You're very brave." "What?" "Nothing." The turkey arrived safely, though slightly dry. Nobody mentioned it except Elaine, who announced that dry turkey was traditional. Halfway through the meal, Frank raised his glass. "To our first holiday with Graham and Tessa as husband and wife." We toasted. "And to Peter," Ray added, Who should be here telling us this salad needs more cheese? Laughter moved around the table. Graham lifted his glass. To Dad. I lifted mine too. The cufflinks were not visible beneath his sweater, but I thought of them anyway. And to everyone who made it today, Elaine said. Silence dropped so quickly it might have broken something. Oh, for God's sake, Doreen muttered. Elaine looked around. What? Graham set down his glass. I'm sure she didn't mean anything, I said. I didn't, Elaine insisted, which confirmed she had. Leah put both palms on the table. We are not doing this. Doing what? Elaine asked, pretending the wedding issue is over while making little comments about it. I made a toast. You made a toast with a knife in it. I was trying to say I'm grateful. Then say that. Don't make Mom's absence into a holiday scavenger hunt. Graham pushed back his chair. Tessa touched his wrist. Stay. I'm getting water. There's water on the table. I want different water. He took his glass to the kitchen. I waited 3 seconds, then followed him. Leah called my name in a warning tone. I also want different water, I said. The kitchen was barely large enough for 2 people pretending to need beverages. Graham stood at the sink with his back to me. You don't have to leave, I said. I'm not leaving. You moved like someone leaving. I'm filling a glass. The pitcher was beside your plate. He turned off the faucet. Why did you follow me to tell you? I didn't know Elaine was going to say that. I don't think you planned a coordinated Thanksgiving attack. That sounds sarcastic. It's difficult to discuss holiday seating sincerely. I almost smiled. He drank half the water. I'm sorry I missed the wedding, I said. The sentence had waited inside me for weeks. Once spoken, it sounded dangerously incomplete. Graham set the glass down. Are you sorry you chose not to come? Yes. Would you choose differently? I don't know. His face closed slightly. I'm trying not to lie to make the room more comfortable, I said. Congratulations. There's no need for that. You're the one who came in here. I know. He looked toward the dining room where Doreen had begun loudly explaining why canned cranberry sauce was more honest than homemade. I wore the cufflinks, he said. When? To dinner with Tessa last week. Did she like them? She said they looked like Dad. They're ovals. You know what she meant? I did. Thank you for giving them to me, he said. You already thanked me. I was angry then. Are you not angry now? I can do 2 things at once. We've all learned the phrase. He smiled despite himself, then looked down. Tessa thinks I should apologize. That is between you and Tessa. She told you that? No. She came to your house and suddenly decided I'm emotionally dishonest. I assure you she had access to evidence before meeting me. His jaw tightened. I regretted it. I don't want an apology Tessa assigns you, I said. What do you want? I want you to understand why it was cruel. You think I don't? I think you understand that it had consequences. That isn't the same thing. No. He picked up his water. Maybe I'm still trying to figure out what I meant, he said. It was not enough. It was more than he had said before. From the dining room, Leah shouted, If you 2 are fighting, please wait until after pie. I have no counter space for emotional debris. We're not fighting, Graham called. I looked at him. We're getting water, he added. We returned to the table. Pie was served on paper plates because Leah had run out of clean dishes. Doreen's was store-bought and excellent. She accepted compliments as if she had harvested the apples herself. When everyone began clearing the table, I stood. Leah pointed a pie server at me. Sit down. I can carry a plate. You can carry your own. I did. Graham collected the rest. He scraped plates, stacked them, and loaded the dishwasher without asking me where anything went. He put 1 glass in the wrong cabinet. I let it remain there. Tessa saw me notice. Growth, she said quietly. Careful. I can still move it after you leave. At the door, she hugged me again. You should come to our house for dinner, she said. Graham was behind her, holding their coats. I looked at him. Is that invitation from both of you? Tessa started to answer. Graham spoke first. I don't know. She turned to him. The room went still around us, though everyone tried to appear busy. "Thank you for being honest," I said. "Ask me when you do know." I put on my coat and left before honesty could become another weapon. At home, I found a small container of turkey in my handbag. Leah had slipped it inside without asking, proving that every family tradition survived by changing disguises. I was putting it in the refrigerator when my phone vibrated. Graham. Dinner next Sunday at 6. From both of us. No jobs, no family meeting. Just dinner if you want. I read the message twice. Then I typed, "I'll bring ice." His response came quickly. "We have ice." I smiled. Then I wrote, "I'll be there." I arrived at 5:58 with nothing in my hands. It felt unnatural. I stood on Graham and Tessa's porch, patting my coat pockets as if I might have misplaced a casserole on the drive. Graham opened the door before I rang. "You're early." By 2 minutes. I was told foster time runs 7 minutes early. That is Leah's slander. He stepped aside. "Come in." I waited. He frowned. "What?" "I'm adjusting to the new procedure." Understanding reached his face. "Yes, you can come in." Their living room looked different from the last time I had waited there for a delivery. The new sofa was blue instead of gray, and a low wooden cabinet stood beneath the television. On top of it sat the unfinished welcome bag. Someone had added chocolates. Tessa came out of the kitchen wearing an apron over a black sweater. "You came. I said I would." "I know." I still wasn't sure. She hugged me, then looked at my empty hands. "You brought nothing. I'm proud of you. Don't be. I have a package of emergency dinner rolls in my car." Graham closed the door. "Of course you do. I can retrieve them in under 30 seconds. We have rolls. Are they reliable? They're bread." That was not my question. Tessa laughed and went back to the kitchen. Dinner smelled like rosemary and garlic. A chicken roasted in the oven, potatoes browned in a skillet, and green beans waited in a bowl beside toasted almonds. "You made all this?" I asked Graham. "Tessa made the chicken. I did the potatoes. They look good." "You sound surprised." "I'm trying not to." He handed me a glass of wine. I glanced toward the kitchen. "Does anything need?" "No." I hadn't finished. "Yes, you had." I sat on the new sofa. On the coffee table lay a large cream-colored book, the wedding album. It had been positioned too squarely to be accidental. I could see the edge of a photograph through the opening between its pages. Tessa returned carrying a small bowl of mixed nuts and saw me looking at it. "The photographer delivered it Friday," she said. "It's beautiful." "You haven't opened it." "The cover is beautiful." She set down the bowl. "You don't have to look." "Then why is it on the table?" "This is where it lives now. You received it 2 days ago. It lives quickly." Graham came in with a dish towel over his shoulder. "Dinner will be ready in 10. He saw the album and stopped. "I thought we agreed not to do that tonight." "I didn't put it there tonight," Tessa said. "You left it there tonight. It's our coffee table. We have other surfaces." I reached for the album. Both of them watched me. "This is absurd," I said. "It's paper, not an explosive device." The first page showed the riverside house in morning light. The next held photographs of Tessa's dress hanging near a tall window, her shoes beneath it, the rings arranged on a bed of moss. The cufflinks in the detail photograph were silver squares. I turned the page. Graham stood with his best man while someone adjusted his tie. He looked nervous and happy. In another photograph, Leah read from a sheet of paper at the rehearsal, her head bent, one earring missing. "I forgot to fasten it," she had told me. The ceremony photographs began. Peter's chair appeared first. White roses, the photograph from Maine, the memorial card. On the facing page was my chair. The white rose had been tied to the back after I left. The card bearing my name was visible. In one photograph, both empty chairs framed Graham as he waited at the front. My dead husband on one side, his absent wife on the other. The image was beautifully composed. I hated the photographer for being talented. Tessa sat beside me. "We didn't ask for that picture." "I know. We almost left it out." Why didn't you?" She looked toward Graham. He stood near the doorway, gripping the dish towel. "I wanted it," he said. "Why?" "I don't know. That is becoming an expensive answer." His expression tightened. "Because it happened." I looked back at the page. In the next photograph, Graham's face was turned toward the ballroom entrance. His guests faced forward. Tessa had not yet begun walking down the aisle. He was looking for me. "You knew I wasn't coming," I said. "I knew what you said." Tessa touched the edge of the page. "He kept thinking you might change your mind." Graham dropped the towel onto a chair. "Can we not narrate my thoughts?" "You chose the picture," she said, "for the album." I didn't choose a discussion. I closed the book. I'm not asking for one. Good. The kitchen timer rang. Graham disappeared to check the chicken. Tessa remained beside me. "I'm sorry." "For what? I promised this wasn't a family meeting." "You did not promise. Graham did." That distinction seems relevant in this family. It usually is. We ate at their small dining table. Graham's potatoes were crisp, the chicken was moist, and the rolls were reliable. I complimented everything once and resisted giving advice about the skillet. For several minutes, conversation remained safely outside the family. Tessa described a difficult client at work who used the phrase circle back so often she'd begun imagining him walking in literal circles. Graham told us their new sofa had arrived with one cushion in the wrong fabric and that the delivery company wanted photographic proof. "You could have taken the picture while the men were still here," I said. I thought the difference was obvious. To whom? Anyone with eyes. I spent 4 hours waiting for that sofa. I remember. 4 hours of my life, and they brought a blue cushion for a gray couch. It was the other way around. I'm glad accuracy survived. The dinner almost became comfortable. Then Tessa asked, "Did you tell your mother why you changed her seat?" Graham put down his fork. I looked at her. "Tessa." "He asked me to leave it alone," she said. "I have, for weeks. This is not leaving it alone. No, it's dinner in our house, where we are supposed to be able to tell the truth." Graham leaned back. "You invited her here for this. We invited her because she's your mother. And because you think I'm incapable of speaking unless you trap me at a table. I think you don't speak. You edit." I folded my napkin. "I can go." "No," they said together. The word was so immediate that all three of us paused. Graham looked at his plate. "Please stay." Tessa nodded. "Please." I placed the napkin back in my lap. "No one is going to use whether I stay or leave as evidence tonight," I said. "I will finish dinner. You two can decide whether you want to ruin it before or after dessert." Tessa pushed her chair back slightly. "I don't want to ruin anything. You knew what would happen when you asked that." "Yes, then own it." She looked startled. Graham looked almost pleased, which irritated me. "And you," I said to him, "do not enjoy being defended from a question you should eventually answer." His pleasure vanished. "Excellent," Tessa said. "Now everyone feels supported." Graham stood and carried his plate to the counter. "I moved the seat because I thought she'd be uncomfortable," he said. "You already told me that," Tessa replied. "I'm telling her." He faced me. "At first, that was the reason. Dad's chair was going to be there, and I knew you'd hate everyone watching you sit beside it. I might have. You would have. You cannot know that. I know you. You know what I allow you to see. That's convenient. It is also true." He crossed his arms. "Then Leah called and told me I was excluding you. She was right," Tessa said. "I know, but she said it like I had spent my whole life mistreating Mom. Leah uses large brushes," I said. I was angry. I changed the seat from the second row to the third. There it was, not an accident, not a coordinator's decision, not kindness distorted by poor communication, a choice made sharper after he was challenged. "You knew I would notice," I said. "Yes." Tessa closed her eyes. Graham continued before either of us could speak. "I knew you'd be annoyed. I thought you'd make one of your comments and then sit down. You thought I would accept it. You accept everything while making sure everybody knows what it costs you. The sentence struck harder than I expected because it was not entirely false. I had carried resentment like a receipt. I did not always present it immediately, but I kept it. I have done that, I said. Graham's face shifted. But knowing my worst habit does not excuse using it to hurt me. I didn't think you'd leave. That is not the same as not wanting to hurt me. Tessa stared at him. He looked toward the album in the living room. I knew it would sting, he said. The room became very still. Why? I asked. I told you. I was angry. That explains the heat, not the target. He gripped the back of his chair. You always get to be the necessary person, he said. The one who stayed, the one who handled Dad, the one who rescued everybody. Even when you pushed me out, you got to tell yourself it was for my good. I did not feel necessary when you called me a courtesy. That was the point. The words escaped him. Tessa inhaled sharply. Graham looked as if he wanted to pull them back. I could hear the refrigerator humming behind us. The point, I repeated. I meant, no. He stopped. I did not want the familiar revision. Not tonight. I'm finishing dinner, I said. My voice sounded calm. My hands were not. We ate the rest in near silence. Tessa served apple crisp. Graham cleared the plates. I stayed until 7:30 because leaving immediately would have turned departure into a verdict, and I was tired of doors being treated like weapons. At the front entrance, Graham helped me with my coat. I didn't mean the whole wedding, he said quietly. What did you mean? I wanted you to understand how it felt. To be asked to leave my house? Yes. Then say that without making me guess. He opened the door. Cold air moved between us. You want honesty, he said. There it is. No. Honesty is not a sentence dropped in anger after 2 months of denial. What else do you want? The truth about why you needed to make me small in front of people who mattered to you. His face closed again. I'm not ready, he said. I stepped onto the porch. Then don't invite me back until you are. Okay, he said. He did not follow me down the steps. I drove home with his confession moving around inside me like a loose object in the trunk. That was the point. 4 words, and the whole wedding changed shape again. It had never been only thoughtlessness. Graham had not simply overlooked me while overwhelmed by details. He had wanted me to feel excluded. Perhaps he had not imagined the empty chair, the whispers, the missed photographs, and the months afterward, but he had chosen the first hurt and expected me to contain the rest. At a stoplight, my phone lit up with Leah's name. I let it ring. She called again before I reached home. You know I can see you're ignoring me, she said when I answered. I was driving. You have hands-free calling. I was driving emotionally. That is not a recognized category. It should be. What happened? We had dinner. I know. Tessa texted me one word. What word? Disaster. That is dramatic. She added a period. I turned into my driveway. Graham admitted he moved my seat because he was angry. Leah went quiet. He said that? Yes. What else? That is all I'm telling you. Why? Because you are not the family switchboard. I never should have taught you that phrase. You didn't. I invented it. Of course you did. I turned off the engine but stayed in the car. Are you okay? She asked. No. Do you want me to come over? No. Are you going to sit alone in the dark and overanalyze every word? I'm in the driveway and the porch light is on. Good. Progress. Before hanging up, she said, for what it's worth, I don't think he understood what admitting it would cost him. I don't know what it costs him yet. Maybe that's not yours to calculate. Inside, the kitchen looked exactly as I had left it. The crooked pottery bowl sat on the counter. The brass key leaned against its cracked side. I took the key out and closed it in the drawer. Then I stood there with my hand on the knob, wondering whether that was growth, performance, or ordinary tidying. The following morning, I wrote Graham a message. I deleted it. At lunch, I wrote another. That one began with, Now that you have admitted, which sounded like the opening argument in a trial, I deleted it too. By evening, I understood that I was doing what I always did, waiting until I could produce a perfect response and calling the delay restraint. I typed, asking you to move out was necessary, making you feel like your grief was an inconvenience I needed removed was wrong. I'm sorry for the way I spoke to you and for not asking what you heard when I said it. I read the message until each word looked misspelled. Then I sent it. His reply came 3 hours later. I appreciate you saying that. I need some time. I wrote, I understand. I did not add a thumbs up. The holidays moved around us. Leah hosted a December dinner and served a roast she had cooked by calling me 6 times while insisting each call was informational. Graham and Tessa arrived late, brought wine, and sat at the opposite end of the table. He said hello to me. I said hello to him. We discussed weather, traffic, and whether Ray's salad could legally be classified as dairy. No one mentioned the wedding. That did not mean it was gone. It sat beneath every conversation like a low table everyone had bruised a shin on and now carefully avoided. Tessa stopped calling me. I understood why. She was his wife, not our translator, and she had been pulled far enough into a fight she had not created. She sent a holiday card with both their names. The photograph showed them on the steps of the riverside house after the ceremony, smiling into wind that lifted Tessa's veil. I put it on the mantel. For 3 days, I turned it face down whenever I passed. Then I became embarrassed by myself and stood it up again. Celia and I continued pottery. My second bowl survived the kiln but emerged with a glaze the color of canned peas. It has confidence, Russell said. It has nausea. You resist imperfection. I resist ugly vegetables. Celia placed the bowl in front of me. Keep it. I was going to. You were going to leave it on the donation shelf. I was evaluating options. You don't have to make everything useful. That is easy to say when you have not seen my cabinets. I took the bowl home and put lemons in it. They improved the color. Sunday dinners remained elsewhere. I attended most, skipped some, and learned that the family did not collapse when I chose a movie with Celia instead of cold pie at Doreen's. Elaine began bringing potatoes people actually requested. Leah stopped calling me for every recipe and discovered the internet had been preserving culinary information without my supervision. The changes relieved me. They also hurt. Being needed had not been the same as being loved, but it had been loud enough to cover the difference. Graham and I did not speak for 5 weeks. He sent a card on my birthday with only his name and Tessa's, beneath the printed message. Leah brought flowers and pretended not to inspect the mantel for evidence of his effort. Doreen called at 7 in the morning and sang badly. Celia took me to lunch, where Russell joined us wearing a leather bracelet with a small silver feather. Nothing terrible happened. That was one of the hardest things to accept. The silence did not produce a crisis requiring repair. No one became ill. No pipe burst. No emergency forced Graham and me into the same room where necessity could pretend to be reconciliation. We simply missed each other. I knew I missed him because I began noticing things I would have told him. A man at the grocery store wearing sandals in sleet, a commercial using a song Peter used to ruin by singing the wrong lyrics, a newspaper article about the brewery represented on Graham's key ring. I did not send any of them. He had asked for time. I had promised myself that respecting a boundary would not become a contest to see who could hold out longer. On a Tuesday evening, my doorbell rang. Through the front window, I saw Graham on the porch. He carried nothing. No broken appliance, no package, no empty container he wanted filled. I opened the door. "Hi," he said. "Hi, I should have called." "Yes, I almost did." "That is difficult to verify. I can come back." He turned slightly. "Do you want to be here?" I asked. He looked at me. "Yes." "Then come in." He waited until I stepped aside. In the kitchen, he looked toward the counter where the brass key used to sit. The crooked bowl now held clips and 2 loose buttons. The green bowl held lemons. "You made those?" he asked. "Yes, they're terrible." The green one is structurally sound. It looks seasick. I said the same thing. He sat at the table. I did not offer food. It took effort. Coffee? I asked. Yes. While I measured grounds, he folded and unfolded his hands. His wedding ring clicked softly against the tabletop. I've been talking to someone, he said. I turned. A therapist, he added. Not a woman I met at a bus stop. I didn't ask. You looked like you were going to. I was going to ask whether you liked the person. I don't. That may be a good sign. That's what Tessa said. The coffee maker began to hiss. Are you and Tessa all right? I asked. We're working on it. I'm sorry I became part of the difficulty. You didn't become part of it. I brought you in. I set 2 cups on the table and sat. Graham wrapped his hands around his butt, did not drink. I'm ready to answer the question, he said. I knew which one. Why did you need to make me small? His eyes moved toward the window. When Leah called about the rehearsal, she said I was treating you like you weren't my mother. She said Dad would be ashamed. Leah should not have brought Peter into it. No. But she did. And I thought about how everybody acted after he died. You handled the funeral. You closed accounts. You gave away his clothes. You told me when I had to leave. You kept functioning, so everyone called you strong. I did not feel strong. I know that now. He rubbed his thumb across his wedding ring. I felt like I was failing at grief. Then I felt like I was failing at living here. When you gave me 30 days, I heard that you could survive losing Dad but not another month of having me in your house. I held still. At the rehearsal, he continued, I wanted one thing I controlled. I wanted Dad honored the way I remembered him. I wanted you to see that my family could have a center that wasn't you. The words hurt, but they did not surprise me anymore. So you moved my seat, yes, and called my invitation a courtesy, yes. Did you mean it? He looked directly at me. In that moment, I wanted it to be true. The coffee maker clicked off behind us. I wanted you to look around and feel what I felt when I lived here, he said. Inside the family, but on borrowed time. I gripped my cup. And the suit? The bags? The breakfast? Doreen's ride? His face tightened with shame. I expected you to do all of it. Why? Because you always did, even if you did not want me there. I thought you'd come anyway. I thought you needed to be the person who saved everything more than you needed me to be kind to you. It was an awful thing to hear because it contained years of evidence. I wanted both, he said. I wanted to punish you, and I wanted you to make the wedding easier. I told myself it wasn't punishment because I didn't think you'd actually leave. And when I did, I hated you. The words were quiet. During the ceremony, I kept looking at the door. Every time it opened, I thought you had changed your mind. Then I was angry that you made me think about you while I was supposed to be thinking about Tessa. I did not make you look. I know. His eyes filled, though no tears fell. Afterward, I told everyone you were upset about a seat, because if I repeated what I actually said, they would know why you left. Leah told them. Some of them. Tessa told me to correct the rest. Did you? Not all of them. I let that sit. I'm ashamed, he said. Not embarrassed. Ashamed. I knew where to hurt you, and I chose it because I was still angry about something we never talked through. You wanted me to feel disposable. Yes. And you counted on me behaving as if I wasn't. Yes. There was the truth at last. It did not repair anything. It did not return me to the front row or place Peter's cufflinks on Graham's wrists at the ceremony, but it stopped the injury from changing names. I'm sorry, he said. Not because you missed the wedding. Not because Tessa is angry with me. I'm sorry because I wanted to humiliate you, and then I blamed you for refusing to accept it. I looked at my son across the same table where I had once given him 30 days to leave. I believe you, I said. Hope moved across his face too quickly. I raised my hand. Believing an apology is not the same as returning to what we had. I know, he said. I don't think you do. Then tell me. The willingness in his voice was new, not patience exactly. Patience can be performed. This sounded more like surrender to the fact that he could not control the answer. What we had was not working, I said. You called when you needed something. I said yes before deciding whether I wanted to. Then I resented you for not noticing what I had volunteered to hide. You made it seem like you liked helping. I did like helping. Then how was I supposed to know? You weren't. That's my part in it. He stared into his coffee. I made usefulness the safest way to love me, I continued. If you needed a ride or a meal or someone to wait for furniture, I knew what to do. If you called because you missed me, I might have had to say I missed you too. You never said that. I know, even when I lived here, especially then. I folded my hands on the table. I was so angry at you for falling apart that I never admitted how relieved I was when you came through the door. Your father had died. Leah was in Denver. This house had become a building full of things no one would ever move again. Then you came home, and for a little while I could hear another person upstairs. Graham's eyes lifted. I wanted you here, I said. I wanted you to get better faster. Those feelings became confused. You wanted me until I took too long. Yes. The word hurt him. I watched it happen. That sounds awful, I said, but it's true. I had no idea how long grief was allowed to last, and yours frightened me because it looked like Peter's worst periods. I began treating every late morning and every bottle as proof you were disappearing. I stopped talking to you and started managing symptoms. You made appointments. You missed them. I didn't ask you to make them. No, I decided asking would waste time. He rubbed the heel of his hand over one eye. I should have told you I couldn't keep living that way without making you sound like the emergency, I said. I should have asked what kind of help you would accept. I should have told you that leaving the house did not mean leaving the family. You acted relieved when I moved out. I was relieved. His face tightened again. And devastated, I added. Both things were true. He leaned back and looked toward the dark window. I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything tonight. I came here to fix this. No, you came here to tell the truth. Fixing takes longer. He gave a short laugh. You make everything sound like dental work. Some damage requires several appointments. There she is. I smiled despite myself. Then I said, I do want you in my life. He became still. But I will not go back to earning a place by being useful. You cannot arrive without calling. You cannot ask me to perform errands as a substitute for speaking to me. If you are angry, you say it before you find a way to punish me. He nodded. And we do not use Leah. Agreed. Or Tessa. Definitely agreed. You do not get to say definitely as if that problem belongs to her. His mouth closed. Fair, he said. I also will not ask either of them how you are when I am too proud to call you. That sounds aimed at yourself. It is. The coffee had gone cold, but neither of us moved to warm it. What about Sunday dinners? He asked. I don't know. You're not bringing them back? I may host sometimes. I will not assume responsibility for feeding the entire family every week until I die. That seems dramatic. Your Aunt Doreen brings refrigerated pie to interventions. Drama is inherited. A real laugh escaped him. It was brief, but it loosened something in the room. I miss them, he said. So do I. They never feel right anywhere else. That is because everyone compares them to a dinner I spent 2 days preparing while telling them it was no trouble. I could help. You could be assigned something. I make good potatoes. You make acceptable potatoes. Tessa said you liked them. Tessa is married to you. She's not that loyal right now. The humor left his face as quickly as it had come. Are you afraid she'll leave? I asked. Yes. I waited for myself to offer reassurance. The old version of me would have said Tessa loved him, that marriage survived worse, that I would speak to her. I said, tell her that. I have. Good. She said fear doesn't give me permission to control how she reacts. I like her. I'm aware. That was not a comparison. I know. He turned his wedding ring once around his finger. Do you forgive me? He asked. The question was too large for the kitchen. I believe you are sorry. That isn't what I asked. No. He looked down. I am beginning to forgive you, I said. I don't know what the end of that looks like. Do I have to wait until then to see you? No, but you have to accept that I may remember while we are rebuilding. I may be angry again. I may see a wedding photograph and lose an afternoon. I can take them down. They are your wedding photographs. We could do another picture. With you. No. He looked up. I will not create a replacement ceremony so everyone can pretend I was there, I said. You got married without me. I chose not to attend. That loss belongs to both of us now. His eyes filled again. I wish you had come. I know. Do you? Yes. Because I wish I had come too. The admission seemed to surprise him. I regret missing it, I said. I regret that I let your cruelty decide where I spent that day. I also don't know whether I could have walked into that room and sat down without disappearing inside myself. I did not have a perfect choice. I thought if you regretted it, that meant I was right. No, regret does not prove the other road was safe. He nodded slowly. I looked for you until the music changed, he said. Then Tessa came through the doors, and I was happy. I need you to know that. I do. I loved my wedding. You're allowed, and part of it was awful. Both things are true. We really have learned the phrase. We paid enough for it. He wiped one cheek with the side of his hand, almost angrily. I got up, brought the coffee pot to the table, and refreshed both cups. Not because he needed me to, because I wanted warm coffee. Will you tell the family what actually happened? I asked. His hand paused around the cup. Yes. Not in a group announcement. I wasn't planning a press conference. You could start with Elaine. Why Elaine? Because she believes I threw chocolates. I'll talk to the people I misled. That will cost you. I know. I sat again. And I need you to understand something, he said. Dad's chair wasn't intended to erase you. I believe that. I can love him without choosing him over you. I know. Do you? Most days. He accepted that. When he stood to leave, the clock showed almost 10. We had been at the table for more than 2 hours. No one had eaten. No object had been repaired. Nothing practical had been accomplished. At the door, he put on his coat. Can I call you this week? He asked. Yes. Do I need a reason? No. He stepped onto the porch, then turned back. I missed you. My throat tightened. I missed you, too. That was where we began, not with forgiveness announced and completed, but with calls that had no task attached. The first came 3 days later. Graham told me he had seen a man scraping ice from a car windshield with a spatula. Metal or plastic? I asked. Plastic. Then he lacked commitment. The conversation lasted 6 minutes. He did not ask for anything. The next week, he called for the name of my mechanic, then stopped himself. I can find one, he said. You can. Or I can give you Mr. Kelly's number without scheduling the appointment and driving your car there. That sounds reasonable. It feels suspicious. He laughed. Graham spoke to the relatives he had misled. I knew because Elaine called me on a Tuesday and spent 9 minutes apologizing without using the word apology. I may have misunderstood certain details, she said. You were given incorrect details. That contributed. Did Graham tell you what he said? He explained that he was unkind. That is accurate. Elaine cleared her throat. I suppose your leaving was understandable. It was also painful. Well, families are complicated, especially the ones containing you. She laughed, relieved that I had offered her an exit. Tessa did not call to discuss Graham. When she contacted me, it was to ask whether I wanted to meet her and Nadine for lunch. Graham knew about the invitation. At the restaurant, we talked about books, Nadine's ongoing war with her hairdresser, and nothing that required me to take a side in their marriage. Good, because I charge by the hour now. Sunday dinners became monthly and rotated among houses. When my turn came, I assigned dishes. Leah brought salad, Graham made potatoes. Doreen arrived with pie still in the store box, which I considered progress. I let people clear the table. The first time Graham put a platter in the wrong cabinet, I moved it after he left. The second time, I told him where it belonged. The third time, he remembered. We still argued. He once failed to call for almost 2 weeks, and instead of punishing him with silence, I told him it hurt. He said work had consumed him, then heard the excuse and called again the following night. I declined 2 requests to wait for deliveries. He found other arrangements and did not attach a thumbs up. Trust returned in increments too small to photograph. The wedding remained missing from my life. I never saw the vows or heard the music Leah read beneath. The silver gray dress stayed in its garment bag until Celia convinced me to wear it to an arts fundraiser. No one there knew it had been purchased for my son's wedding. It was simply a beautiful dress, and I looked dignified. Several months after our kitchen conversation, Graham called on a Wednesday. "Dinner Friday?" he asked. "What is the occasion?" "There isn't one." "Who will be there?" "You, me, and Tessa." "What should I bring?" "Nothing. I can make a salad." "We have salad. Ray has lowered your standards." "Mom, is this another emotionally significant dinner?" "I hope not." "Then why are you inviting me?" He was quiet for only a second. "Because you're my mother, and I want you there." "Friday at 6, I said. I arrived at 6 with nothing in my hands. I had not even put emergency rolls in the car. The welcome bag still sat on their cabinet, now slightly bent at one corner. Beside it stood a wedding photograph of Graham and Tessa laughing beneath her wind-blown veil. Peter's picture from Maine rested in a smaller frame nearby. No empty chairs. Dinner was roast chicken, potatoes, and green beans, the same menu they had served the last time. Graham burned the first batch of potatoes and admitted it without blaming the skillet. Tessa opened wine. We talked about Celia's pottery class, their sofa cushion, and whether Nadine's hairdresser had intentionally cut one side shorter. Nobody discussed the rehearsal. That was not avoidance. We had finally spoken enough truth that silence could become ordinary again. After dinner, I began stacking plates. Graham reached across the table and took them from my hands. "I can help," I said. "I know. There are 3 plates." I counted. "Your dishwasher arrangement is inefficient." "Probably." He carried the dishes toward the kitchen, then looked back at me. "Sit," he said. "You're my guest." For a moment, I heard the old instruction beneath it, the role assigned, the place decided by someone else. Then Graham pulled out the chair beside his and turned it slightly toward the kitchen, so I could remain part of the conversation while he cleared the table. He was not telling me to become smaller. He was making room. I sat down.